How's it going, everybody? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another. I almost said knife talk. This is not knife talk. This is Artisans of Steel, where I talk to some of the most talented, inspirational knife makers and makers in general that I know. And I am very fortunate to be able to call my friends, which helps kind of the conversations flow a little easier. Um, but before we get into the conversation with my friend Kaila this morning, I don't know why I always want to. Did I say it wrong? Is it Kayla or Kyla? The first one or two? Okay, I always fuck it up. I blame Neil Kamimura actually for that one because for the longest time he was saying her name wrong. Anyways, so before we get into the conversation with, we're gonna talk about the super sponsors real quick. All right, Gabe Fletcher of Anchorage Brewing Company. He's also Anchorage Forge on Instagram. He's a very good dude. He's got some really cool projects going on actually right now. By the time this comes out, a collaboration that he actually just finished up with Joshua Prince. That's a knife and steel collaboration as well as a beer collaboration will have dropped and become available, and it's a tasty beer and it is a fucking cool knife. So go follow Gabe on Instagram. Again, his maker page is at Anchorage Forge. If you are not aware of his brewing company, Anchorage Brewing, go check them out. They're making the best beers that I've ever tasted in my life. So yeah, go check out Gabe, give him a follow. He's a great guy doing very good work. Next up, we have Tony Sazma. He is TNT Forge on, he's not really on Instagram right now. I think his page got hacked, unfortunately. Same with his Facebook, but he does really great chef's knives, EDCs. He's also been building butcher blocks, doing woodworking. And if you are interested in getting a hold of any of his work, whether you're a maker or a user, give him a shout on his email at tntforge1@gmail.com. That's tntforge1, the number one, at gmail.com. Next, we have Josh Weston. I almost said Preston. I don't know who Josh Preston is, but Josh Weston is my buddy and very creative and talented maker. He comes from a background of graphic design and advertising, and he is one of the most creative guys I know. And I just love following his work. You can go follow him on Instagram at Josh A. Weston. He's also part of the Dragon Forge Experience. Man, I'm really struggling with my words right now. At Dragon Forge Experience over on Instagram, where he cruises around with a troupe of other forgers at Renaissance festivals around the country, and they invite people into the forge. They've built these elaborate forges that are they're fabricated to look like dragons. So like they have full on dragon bodies and everything. So you are forging out of the flames, out of the fire of the mouth of the dragon. And I think people are really loving it. It's super cool. And I'm talking to Josh actually about trying to get out to one of these events, maybe next year, to come and hang out and to just forge with people. And it looks like a good time. And so I want to go check it out and hang out with him. All right, next up we have Russell Tinsley, Ouzel Finch Beers. His maker page is at Can't Make Knives, and his breweries are at Ouzel Finch. That's OOZLE Finch Beers, and at Nost. That's NOST Brewing Projects. Both really great brewing companies. Ouzel Finch does a lot more like sours and kind of boozy sodas and kind of wild and crazy out of the box style and flavors of beers. If you go to a local beer market, get a hold of it if they have it. If they don't have it, talk to the buyer about getting some, because while they're wild and crazy, like the labeling is also really good, but the flavors are super delicious and palatable, and I enjoy them a lot. And so, yeah, Ouzel Finch Beers, Nos Brewing Project, and Can't Make Knives. Go follow him. Go follow Russell and give him some love and support. Next up, we have Dan Hubbs. He is 66 Mountain Knives. He's on Instagram and Facebook at 66. That's the numbers 66 Mountain Knives. Another great maker doing EDCs, He's getting a phenomenal finishes on his Damascus, really high contrast, high gloss finishes. He's actually chatted with about it with other makers over in our Discord, um, the private Discord through the Patreon. Um, and so, if you want to learn more about that, you can join the Patreon, become part of the Discord, and check out those conversations, as well as chatting with all the other people that are over there. But anyway, Dan Hub is a great guy doing very clean, very good work. I actually at Blade Show Atlanta last year, I was like, dude, what piece? Like, what did you put in the judging? And he's like, oh, I didn't put anything. I was like, oh my God, dude, you got to put something in because his Damascus is that good. He's doing some great stuff. Go give him some support over on Instagram and Facebook at 66 Mountain Knives. And last but not least, we have Lawrence Lake. He is Maritime Knife Supply, which you can find on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Maritime Knife Supply. You can also find them online at maritimenifesupply.com, where even though they're based out, Lawrence is based out of Atlanta, Canada. He's a great supplier for any Canadian makers. He's also a great supplier for the United States, as well as shipping over to Europe as well. So whatever you need, get a hold of Lawrence. If he's not already carrying it, talk to him about getting it in, because whatever it is, I'm sure you're not the only one that needs that thing, whatever it may be, whether it's a jig, whether it's a kind of belt, whatever it is. Lawrence is a great guy, and he's doing a lot of work to support the knife making community as well as being a maker himself. So with that said, I want to thank again all of our super sponsors over on the Patreon. If you want to become a member of the Patreon, you can go to patreon.com, search Malmosy Fire Arts. You can also go to my Instagram. I have a link tree there in my bio, and that will link you straight to the Patreon, where you can join and at either the base levels, or if you want to be part of these live conversations, you can join at the illuminated individual level or higher. And you can be part of these live conversations, like Mr. Mike Poor is here. He's Red Dragon Forge over on Instagram. He's part of the conversation already. And I look forward to his insights or questions and feedback that he's got during the conversation. But you can be part of these live chats and talk to these very talented makers that I pull into these conversations for the Artisans of Steel podcast. And with that said, I'm actually going to pull Kaila in. Kaila, right? Hi, is your name Kaila?
I know, yeah. It's Neil's fault. He still to this day calls me Kaila.
I know. That's whenever I talk, whenever you come, he says your name Kaila. I'm like, wait, what is it? He keeps fucking me up.
I know. I'm like, it's okay. I'm so used to it too that I just let people call me whatever.
Well, it's really important to me because I have a fucking crazy name. You can see my name right there, right? And a lot of people, it's a foreign name, and so people are like, I don't know even where to start with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like when I go to the grocery store and I punch in my code or whatever, my phone number, and they're like, oh, thanks, Mr.
They're like, never mind.
Yeah. Like, I'm not even, a lot of people are like, I'm not even going to try to butcher that. I thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
I'm just like, thank you.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so important to me because my whole life I've struggled with people saying my name, and I don't know. I try to take less offense to it because it's not difficult to say, even though it is an unusual combination of letters. Mareko, Malmosy is pretty straightforward, but until you've heard it said, it's like, I don't know what's happening here.
Yeah, so. You're like, I don't know. Yeah, I've been called everything. Kaila, Kaylee, like, yeah. My last name's even worse too.
Just Cumings, right?
It's Cumings, but like the jokes, they just for days.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I have a buddy named Mike Cumings. He's a very talented ceramicist here in town. And that's when I first, I didn't even think anything of it because I already knew people who have the same last name. And he owns one of the snowboard shop isn't around anymore, but for 15 years, it was the best shop in town. And that's what I relate is savvy business person, very cool person, very talented person with the name.
Yeah, love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, but I'm sure you've had, like you're saying, you've had some jokes made People are
Oh my
shitty.
God, everyone's like, is that your real name or are you a stripper? Like everyone thinks
That a
that
stripper name?
when they
Oh
see
my
my,
god.
yeah, they're like, that's a stripper name.
Some people, yeah. It's just I don't know.
Yeah,
Even with my name, like I used to get teased so much for like it was the stupidest shit. Like it wasn't even actually very creative or funny.
yeah,
And but it was the intention, at least when I was a kid, there was the intention behind it was to be hurtful and to be shitty. And that's what
yeah.
always like I hated. So
Yeah.
that's why it's really important to me when I meet somebody and I hear their
Thank you.
name, I want to make sure I'm saying it right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're
So
good. Kayla.
Kayla. All right.
Awesome.
So I first met you, I'm trying to remember, I think it was back in 2018.
Yep.
Um, it was before actually I had gone and worked with Neil and really actually knew Neil very well. He and I at that point had chatted a little bit. Um, but you guys, I think, were over at the combat booth and hanging out, and that was the first time I met you. And we chatted. I think I was hung out and chatted for not super long, but like 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, and then from there, like it's been really good to like have that connection because then we like I think it was Blade West the following year. We were
Yeah.
in Portland. We were all in the same house, and
Yeah.
that combat put us all together in, and we were hanging out. But it was also that was a great opportunity to get to know you a little bit better there. And then seeing you at other events like Maker or Winter Strong, especially put on by
Yeah.
Sornex down in South Carolina.
Yeah, I got my
That was
store next month.
yeah.
It's funny.
It's
Yeah.
that was another great like weekend to just like hang out, get to know you better, spend some time with you at the forge. And I think it's just like moments like that are really important, or are rare opportunities to really get to know people outside of like I don't know, like the pressure of shows or knife shows and stuff like that. Winter Strong was actually a
Yeah.
really good place to do that. And Maker Camp, I think we didn't actually see each other very much at or Maker Camp. I think it was like I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys were just there for the one day, but
I want to say we were there for the whole weekend, but it was raining so bad. And I want to say I was
it was
like
last year,
6 months
right?
pregnant. Yeah, it was
Right.
last year. And I was like 6 months pregnant. So yeah, I was not feeling well at all. And I
You're
kind of
like
just like
fuck
hid
this
back at
rain.
the place. So, yeah, pretty much. I felt bad,
Yeah.
but
No, no,
yeah.
no. It's totally understandable. The last year at Maker Camp, October 23, it was a fucking shit show. It was like it was actually dangerous to be out at Maker Camp because they have
It
cords and
was.
cables running all over the place, and then the whole field was flooding. And
Yeah, so bad.
yeah, and the
I know. I
field
can't
is
wait to
actually
go
their
again,
drainage.
but
Yeah,
mhm.
that field is actually their drainage field for the septic for a couple of the bathroom areas there. So that was also like kind of gross. And so like
Yeah.
anyways, yeah, I saw you
Yeah,
there just
that's
for
not
a few
good.
minutes, in passing, and we didn't get to catch up more, but it was good to see you, and it's good to catch up with you now. But part of the opportunity here is like I want you and I haven't really had a chance to like just I mean, honestly, Winter Strong's probably been the closest we've had to just like hanging out one to one and just chatting. But
Yeah.
this is a much deeper opportunity for me to just get to know because I do find you very interesting and I like your knife work and I like you as a person. So when all those things come together, I just want to know more about a person, especially like where they come from and what has helped to kind of cultivate the human being that you are today. And so
Yeah.
and you live up in New Hampshire. Is that where you grew up? Is that where you were born?
Yep, born and raised. Yep, I currently live in Vermont though, but yeah,
Oh
born and
shit.
raised in
I'm
New
sorry.
Hampshire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last time I knew you were in New Hampshire. You're in
No,
Vermont.
it's fine.
Vermont is
I
gorgeous, by
honestly
the way.
don't tell a lot of people that I live here, so
Vermont,
but
I was shocked by Vermont. I think it was after Maker Camp in 20 oh, whatever, a couple of years, 22. We went through for a road trip through Vermont before going over to New Hampshire where I taught a class. And Vermont shocked me. Actually, we were talking
it's
before the podcast,
beautiful.
and I was absolutely blown away by how absolutely gorgeous it was. And it was one of those few places that I've traveled to and seen where I'm like, hmm, I think I mean, it would obviously it's very cold there. You're talking about that already with
Yeah.
me, but um, And I've experienced a little bit of that when we were in Connecticut, but I think Vermont's still a little bit different than than that. But it was gorgeous,
Yeah, no,
man.
it's
That was one of those
freezing.
places that I was like, I think I would enjoy living in Vermont. But
Yeah, it's beautiful. I live in Brattleboro and it's not the best. Like the drugs are really bad here right now. I mean,
okay,
as they are in most places, but
yeah,
yeah, like we moved. I'm actually down at my shop now, and we're right by the train tracks. So we get a lot of like homeless people and addicts and stuff that were down here, like pitching their tents and stuff. And so
sure,
it's a crazy, crazy area. But I mean, Vermont overall is beautiful. Not so much Brattleboro, but
sure.
yeah,
Yeah, and honestly, yeah, you're right. That kind of the issues with that are all over the place, and I think, unfortunately, I mean, there are some people that's just like that's been their life, and a lot of people, though, I think, at least around here, have been really had their ass kicked by COVID and like losing jobs and losing houses and stuff like that. And we have actually around here, we have like a pretty gnarly heroin problem. Like it was
yeah,
meth
it's
for a long
fentanyl.
time. Oh, really? Yeah,
Yep.
fentanyl too here. Yeah. So it was meth for a long
Yeah.
time, and fentanyl, and now it's well, it was crack, and now it's and it's
Oh my
just
God, it's so bad.
it's
Yeah.
sad and gnarly and all at the same time. And it's like, yeah, I don't know what to do about it.
Yeah. Well, and I sympathize too with people that fall on hardships and that need
For sure.
help. Like I'm all about helping people out. Like I'll do a lot of stuff to help them, but it's the people that just don't want help and they're just making the situation worse. And
Sure.
I mean, like the stories that I could tell you of things that have happened down here. I had a girl take a shit right in front of my shop, like
Oh
when
my
we
god,
first moved in. Yeah, just like
dude.
dropped trowel and took a shit in front of the doors.
Oh my god.
We had like we had another guy that was masturbating on our loading dock. And we have like cameras everywhere. So
Yeah,
yeah, we get the notification, we turn it on, we're like, what the hell? So we've
there's
had some
movement
gnarly,
going
gnarly stories. Yeah.
on. Oh my god. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so before strangers were masturbating on your loading dock, what was life like growing up in New Hampshire?
I
How's
know.
that
Oh my
transition?
God. Well, I wanted to tell you too really quick. So I think
Yeah,
like the first time that we met was at Blade Show back in like I think it was either 2017 or 18,
yeah.
and you were with Neil. And I love this story because Neil always tells people, he'll be like, yeah, that was the first time I met Kaila, and I was excited to meet her. And she comes over to the booth, and she just wouldn't even give me the time of day. Like that's what he tells everybody. And I'm like, I think it's so funny because I actually had just gotten back from shooting my Naked and Afraid XL in Africa, and I
Oh,
had dengue fever, rickettsia, Lyme disease. I was like all sorts of fucked
you
up and
all
sick,
fucked up.
and
Oof.
yeah, so fucked up. And I had just gotten back from being like isolated in the African bush for 40 days. So like getting thrown into Blade Show around like all these people, like my PTSD and my social anxiety is super bad anyways.
Sure.
And so like dealing with that and then coming back. And it's just so funny because he's always like, you were so mean to me. So I was like, do you think I was quiet or mean when we first met?
No,
Okay, good. Because I
no.
always overthink that. Because he tells everybody, he's like, you were so mean to me, and I'm like, dude, I was like dying, like literally had dengue fever,
When
like it
I
was
now
so
that you
bad.
bring that up, I remember you telling me that now before, and um, maybe not necessarily in that moment, but after in a different situation. But I can completely understand being coming from complete isolation to being overwhelmed by people like hundreds or thousands of people coming by and be like, "Ah, ah, ah," in your face when
Right?
you've just been by
Yeah.
yourself for I don't even know how long those shoots are. How long are
Yeah.
those
So that
shoots?
one
I
was
forgot.
that one was 40 days. So yeah, I was gone for like almost 3 months total. Yeah. And like I was in total isolation too. Like I had a group of 8 people out there with me, but even then I isolated myself from those guys. So
Right.
I would just go out and ditch the camera crew. And so I was like completely alone. And yeah. And then I came home and I'm like thrown into that. And yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god. No, I don't even know, like, I don't even know if I would've gone to that. I would've just been like, "Okay, time to be home."
Yeah, I know I should have. I should have just stayed home. But well, then I probably wouldn't have met you guys. And so it all worked out. But
Sure. That's fair. That's fair.
yeah.
Okay, so where did you grow up, and what was life like growing up for you? Like, because you I kind of mentioned this in the caption for the podcast, but I know you for your knife making, for your outdoor skills, survivalist skills. Um, And like how I mean, I'm sure the survivalist skills eventually leads to the knife making, which would make sense. But like how did even like
Mhm.
the survivalist skill, like how did the outdoor skills and stuff build up? Is that something you guys did as a family as you're growing up, or it's just like that was your thing and you just like went off in that direction with it? Or what was it like for you growing up in New Hampshire, I guess?
Yeah. Yeah, so my dad always took me like hunting, fishing. I was always outdoors with him, like, man, as long as I can remember. So I always had like those outdoor survival skills and stuff that he instilled in me. And then when I was like 12, 13 years old, I joined the rifle team. So I did small bore competition shooting. And I was pretty good at it too. I ended up going to the Junior Olympics out in Camp Perry, Ohio. I came in second
Oh
in the
shit.
nation for that a couple years in a row. And yeah, and I was always like into like the outdoors and shooting and hunting. Knives and guns kind of go hand in hand together. So
For
I
sure.
always collected knives and guns and yeah. But I was always like
Where
a wild and crazy kid growing up. Like always naked running around. Like I had cowboy boots and I would just be like naked with my cowboy boots playing in the brook outside and
perfect.
or like I would be breaking into like my neighbor's garage. My parents would be like, "Where'd Kayla go?" And they'd find me like naked in the neighbor's garage, like reading books and stuff, or just
Oh my
like
god.
like I was just like a little explorer.
Oh my god, that's hilarious. And at exhibitions,
Yeah.
apparently, you just like getting close.
Exactly.
Were you an only child?
No, I actually have four brothers and two sisters. One
Oh
of my
shit.
sisters passed away, but yeah, I have
Okay.
a big family. But they're
Big
all
fan.
old enough to be my mom and dad, so
Oh, okay.
their kids are actually more my age.
I see. Were you a whoopsie
Yeah,
baby?
yeah,
I
I totally
gotcha.
was. Yeah,
Crazy. Okay, so
yeah.
your siblings' kids are your age.
They're
Interesting.
actually older than me, which is weird because I'm their aunt. So everyone's
Right.
like, "Oh, Auntie KK," but I'm actually younger than them. So they're like, "How does that work?" It's
Well,
funny.
let me talk to you
Yeah,
about the birds and the bees.
exactly.
Okay, so that's crazy. I didn't know that, right? The marksmanship kind of aspect, the rifle team stuff. And you went to the
Yeah.
Junior Olympics, took second in the nation. That's pretty amazing. I didn't know that.
Thanks.
Um,
Yeah, I don't tell people a lot about that.
it's I feel I've always really loved and appreciated marksmanship sports. I like obviously there's projectiles like guns and archery, but I also tie in like playing pool, darts, bowling into the like I have more access to pool and darts and bowling, but
Yeah.
which obviously is not the same, but at the same time, it is you have a target you're aiming for in a very specific way, and the conditions are constantly changing, and so you have to adjust for those. And so the little bit of, um, shooting and archery that I've done as an adult, it really plays into that really nicely, and it's something that I really it's one of the few things that I've done that I really enjoy struggling at. I think that's the hardest thing for
Yeah.
anybody in life is to just or the goal for anybody in life is to find the thing that that you love so much that that you'll continue to struggle at it to figure it out and learn it. And that's one of
Yeah,
the
until
things
you
that
get
I've
better.
always
I love
done.
that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
And so
definitely.
and so you've done a lot of hunting, I guess it sounds like growing up. And
Yeah.
what are some of your more notable I guess harvests, whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of deer and turkey hunting, but man, when I got the opportunity to hunt in Africa, and when I did that, I was the first female to get a big game kill on the show. I shot a
Hmm.
warthog when I was
Oh
out
wow.
there, and yeah, and when I got to have the opportunity to hunt in Africa, and then I got back home, I was like, I don't even want to hunt anymore. Like this is boring, because I was literally like, I had my bow and I had my arrows in my mouth, and I'm like naked, crawling through like army crawling through up onto these like warthogs and like yeah, just like tons of deer, and it was crazy. So then I
Oh
get back
man.
home and I'm like, oh, I'm just sitting in like a tree stand. This is so boring, but that
Yeah,
was
that does
definitely like
sound very boring comparatively.
yeah, right. Yeah, that
And
was one of like my most memorable hunts though.
wow. Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
Get taking care of Pumbaa out there. Um,
Yeah.
in high, so that probably like the shooting and stuff takes you probably through high school. Um, do you go on to any college at all?
No, so I had a lot of opportunities. I was doing so well on the rifle team that they were going to give me scholarships, and I could have gone
Right.
to pretty much any college that had a rifle team. I could have gone to, but I actually got pregnant my senior year of high school,
Okay.
so that kind of threw a wrench in things. But
Sure.
um, yeah, so I didn't end up going to college, which honestly I don't think college was really meant for me, anyways. So I'm glad I
College,
didn't go. But
yeah, college was never my track either. I kept trying
yeah,
to, and the only way I could afford to is because of like not scholarships, like different grants and stuff that were available to
yeah,
like a certain like financial bracket of people, which I fit in.
yep.
And so but I feel bad. Like I love learning, but fuck, I hate doing the schoolwork. Like learning's
It's
I
so
I
bad.
love learning, but I hate doing the schoolwork. And the only classes I got A's in college actually were lecture and test classes because I would only take classes that were intriguing or interesting to me. And then I
Yeah,
would take really good notes, and then we take a test. Whether I had the notes or not, I didn't need them, and I would always get A's in those classes. But any class that required that I did a bunch of busy work and stuff, I always failed.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so
Same. I was not good in school at
yeah,
all.
I feel like there's definitely a crew of people who struggled in school. I think, yeah, we got friends like Lucas and Neil, like didn't even finish like
Yep.
school or middle school.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, yeah,
I feel like those
it,
types of people make amazing artists, though, right?
yeah, it's just, the, I think the flaw is that most schooling is designed for a certain linear way of learning. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, not all brains operate in that manner. They operate either complete opposite of that or some sort of mix within there, and they're just not designed to suit all those people, to accommodate all those people. And I'm definitely one of those people, it sounds like you are as well, who struggled in that
yeah,
system. And like I barely graduated high school, honestly. Like I almost failed out of high school, and if I became a fifth year senior, I would not have gone again. I would have just
yeah.
gotten my fucking GED and been like, yep, I'm over this shit. I'm not doing a
Yeah,
fifth year scholarship.
exactly. No,
So
it's terrible. Have you seen that video where it talks about how school is like the one thing that hasn't actually changed over the last like 100 years?
I haven't,
It's
but
like,
I feel
like
like I've read books. Like there's this guy named John Taylor Gatto. He actually was voted like best teacher, or like teacher of the year in New York City for like multiple years before he actually quit because he thought the way the educational system was set up was totally fucked up, and he actually
yeah,
left the educational system. But part of what he writes about in his book, I think it's called Dumbing Us Down, is about that that aspect of how our educational system has not changed for a long time. And
yeah,
I like my conspiratorial brain gets into places where it's like, well, it makes sense. They're not actually really interested in educating people. They're interested in creating good workers. And that's what
yeah. That's
I
all
think
it
a
is.
majority of our educational system teaches kids how to be good rule followers, do what you're told, lock and step, and stay in line
Yeah,
and all that shit. And so so yeah. But
yeah, it's
no,
true. I'll have to show that video. I'll pull it up for you sometime and play it for you because it's the way that he talks about it. It's so well said. And
sure.
I'll probably end up butchering it, but it's true. It's like the one thing the educational system hasn't changed at all, and we all learn differently. And also with like now we have so much technology and computers and stuff like that that we should be implementing into schools. And yeah, you can't make a kid sit down at a desk all day, and then they tell them like, oh well, they have ADD, and they pump them full of drugs and stuff, and
Right.
yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, so
Yeah. Well, and I think I th- what is it? I think there are a lot of alternative school styles now, especially in like people who like Bert Soren and other people I
yeah.
know. My sister-in-law, they do
Mhm.
homeschooling, and their actual like heavy academic stuff is like a couple hours a day for reading,
Yeah.
writing, and arithmetic. And then outside of that, it's about them trying to hone or discover their personal genius, whatever that is, going through this exploratory process to try, again, like what I was saying earlier, like trying to find what it is, like what their thing is, and then lock into that. If they think they found it, lock into it and discover, like explore it, struggle in it, learn from it.
Yep.
But eventually, like maybe that is their thing, or maybe it's not. And then you kind of do some more exploring and keep trying to figure that shit out. But the while obviously numbers and reading all that shit's definitely important, like the amount of time that we spend on it is crazy. Like
It's
like
stupid. I can't even tell you like half of the stuff that I learned in school, especially in math class. I have, yeah,
well,
no
and I was just
idea.
like I was telling my who I was talking to my brother because he has a 13-year-old, and his daughter's like they're doing all learning all the shit about like language arts and stuff like that. And I'm like, I still don't know what all these different things are, like a adjective,
Yeah.
like all these things. I
Oh
don't know
yeah,
what
a
these,
pronoun, a verb, like yeah.
and
Yep, I don't know anyone either.
so yeah, it's just, well, and also like the sciences stuff, like especially like some basic elemental sciences, and honestly like the sciences we should be learning in school is like nutrition. Like that was an elective class, that wasn't a required class. And it's like, as humans in general, we should understand, like we don't necessarily need to know how the mitochondria work in our cell structure to understand, to like to survive. What we need is better understanding of our nutrition, exercise. Like that
Mhm.
stuff should be, there should be more of a focus on that. If you want to get into biology, like I understand, like touch, if there was a science class that touched on little elements of different types of science, that's interesting. Cool.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
if somebody, and then that might spark somebody's interest, and then like, oh, I want to dive deeper into this kind of, into to this aspects of physics or engineering or biology or all this other shit, oceanography,
yeah,
whatever the fuck, right?
exactly.
But to
Yep.
spend like I think biology was probably one of the classes I almost failed. I don't think I ever actually failed a
Yeah.
class because my teachers liked me enough that they helped me not fail. But basically I almost failed most of my like heavier academic classes, like sciences and
Yeah.
writing and shit like that.
Oof.
I actually
Well,
did
that's
all
good your
right in math
teachers
one time.
actually liked you. Yeah.
I honestly, I don't know why. Like I wasn't necessarily disruptive, but I also wasn't like the greatest student either.
Yeah. My
Because like I
teachers
said, I just like,
hated me.
oh,
They hated me. Yeah.
why would they hate? Why? Why did they hate you?
Just because I was like the class clown and I used to skip all the time too. I'd like go in the bathroom and like throw in a dip and just like hang out and I'd get caught in the bathroom like dipping or like yeah, they hated me. They were like this girl's an asshole. And I was in criminology, which was like actually the one class that I was really interested in and so
Okay.
fascinated by. And I was also taking we had like an after school program type of thing where you could take different electives and I signed up for cosmetology. So I actually have my cosmetology license. I'm a hairdresser as well as a knife maker, which is
Is
something
that why
that a
your
lot of
hair
people
always
don't
looks so
know.
good?
Oh, thank you. I feel like my hair is always like I'm always burning it when I'm at the forge and stuff.
You got to tie it back.
Thank you. I know, I
I
really
gotta.
should.
This
I
is
know, I
gonna
need
go up, and it's
to.
like I need one little spark, and then like my whole fucking
And
head's
the
on
whole
fire.
thing's up. Yeah, exactly.
Ah!
But I was that would be terrible. I was in criminology though one day, and I just remember my teacher being like, "You should just drop out of this class because you're not going to amount to anything more than a hairdresser, anyways." And my
Holy
teachers
fuck!
just they fucking hated my guts. So yeah, now look at me.
See, yeah, no, yeah, fuck them. I think what's really
Yeah,
unfortunate is like there are a lot of teachers who don't realize that they're working in a flawed system. and
yeah,
so they take like a hard stance, and that's really unfortunate because they are in the position to like my teachers. I think a lot of my teachers, they either like me or they saw potential in me, but they know I wasn't doing well in classes, but they didn't fail me. um
yeah,
and I think part of that is like they knew I was capable of doing the work. It's just like it wasn't something that necessarily sparked my interest. But like my
Mhm.
senior year, I was taking like art class and some very basic physics class that was really like how do physics work out in real world, which was actually applicable. I used some of that those mathematics and science um
Yeah.
scientific shit for lack of a better word that I learned in that class because it was basically practical physics. How does physics work out in the world just to understand the
Yeah.
world that you live in? I thought that was very intriguing. It didn't
Yeah,
dive
that's
too
super
deep into
cool.
engineering and stuff like that, um
Yeah.
but I the only class I really got an A in was fucking psychology class my senior year. I had an art
That's
class,
awesome.
like, and I was good at art. I was a creative person, and
Yeah.
I still got it. I didn't get an A in my art class. I think I got like a C in my art
That's
class. I
that's so
was
funny.
I was so lax, but
That's
my psychology class, both the sociology and psychology class, were very intriguing to me, and because it captured
yeah.
my interest and my attention, I did great in those classes. It wasn't that I wasn't
Right?
smart enough or capable.
Yeah.
It's just I was fucking bored in a lot of my classes. And for
Yeah.
so I think it's really unfortunate and ridiculous for teachers who don't realize who are that they are working in a flawed system, and that we should be trying to cultivate children's and kids' interests in whatever the fuck they find interesting. And sometimes that's
Yeah.
not your fucking class. Don't take it personal. Don't have to be a dick about it.
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
and because
Dude,
the
psychology is amazing too. That's cool that
yeah,
you got an A. 'Cause I'm like fascinated by all that. I still am. Like I love all that stuff. I love seeing like we're trying to figure out like why people's minds work the way that they do. And
yeah.
yeah, I think that's
My
all
whole life
fascinating.
my whole life I've been interested in that stuff. I
Yeah.
I've I haven't read a lot of like young like Carl Jung stuff, but I feel like I got to get into his stuff because I've in especially in regards to a lot of the philosophical stuff I've read over the years,
Yeah.
it always comes back to like the oversoul or the what is it called? The connected consciousness that he refers to in his own writings. Like so psychology and philosophy and spirituality have also all been like an aspect of things that have been like a big part of just my own intellectual interest that I haven't
Yeah.
really pursued outside or in a more formal educational setting. And if I were to go back to school, one, I would probably be a much better student than I was then. I just
Yeah.
struggled. I didn't and I also didn't have like study skills. That's another fucking thing they should teach in school. Study skills. They just
Yeah.
like put you through this like trial by fire for study skills. Like, oh, sorry, you didn't do that one right, so you fail that. That's a
Yeah, and then they're
instead of
like,
like
here's a bunch of extra homework that you need to take home and
make
like
up for it.
try to get your parents, yeah, try to get your parents to help you with it. And they're so like overstimulated and they don't want to help. And yeah,
Yeah,
it's a shit show.
yeah.
It's too funny.
So
Have you ever listened to Journey of the Souls? You were just talking about like spirituality
I
and all
have.
that. Isn't that incredible? I just finished it.
Yeah,
So good.
it's it
Yeah.
was a very, very interesting book. Um, I think part of what got me intrigued into learning or pursuing that book, one, I in a lot because I read books, I listen to a ton of audiobooks, and
Yeah.
in all the other audiobooks that I had been reading, that Journey of the Soul kept popping up, and I was like, to me, like when I see things enough time, I'm like, okay, maybe this is like some sort of sign in a way
This is a
that
sign. Yeah.
maybe I should be like checking this out. And also other experiences, which I'm not going to get into the podcast, have kind of opened me or more up to this idea of some of the philosophy and stuff that he talks about in that book. And and then once I read or listened to that book, I was like, holy fuck, this is like all this shit that I've come to this realization, understanding in my
Yep.
own life. Um, like it helps to put words to that new understanding that I've come to have, I guess,
Yeah.
through these
Yep.
recent experiences. And so, um, yeah,
That's so
that's a
cool.
really
You'll have
good
to tell me about those experiences and stuff like when you have time off after the
we'll have
podcast
to
or
talk
whatever, because
another.
I think that's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that stuff. I find it so fascinating. And I
I do
thought
too.
Journeys of the Soul was so good. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
wow, that actually makes a lot of sense. And it puts so much things into perspective. So, Yeah, I thought that
Yeah.
was really cool.
Yeah, it's a very interesting book.
Hell
And I
yeah.
think people, if they're pulling it up and reading like the caption on it, they're like, "What the fuck are they talking about?" But
Yeah, I
I think
know. It's worth it.
again, through my own personal experiences that I've had, it makes a lot of sense to me and helps to put a lot of things into words, like I said. Yeah, of
Yeah.
all that stuff. So, but yeah, if I were to go back to school, one, I would be a better student. Two, I would probably pursue psychology in the direction of like some sort of therapeutic or counseling capacity,
Hmm.
especially with um oh, what is it? Psychedelics, or entheogens or whatever you
Yeah.
want to call them, plant
Yeah.
medicines. They're being used more and more as a way of helping people to process their trauma in their life and understand and cope with like end of life mortality. And there are a lot of like big deal studies that have been done, and more states are starting to transition. Like Oregon has just transitioned to making at least what is it? I think they at least decriminalized at least mushrooms, if not other like psychedelic mushrooms, if not other particular drugs that can be used towards for therapeutic use. But there's like a whole deep history there too, where like psychedelics, when people think of psychedelics, like they're especially through like the 80s, probably through 70s and early 90s, there was like this smear campaign, like psychedelics going to destroy your brains and stuff like that, where um when they
Yeah.
were first being discovered and used, they were being used by therapists to try to help people. And then
Yeah.
and then they escaped the lab,
Hmm.
and thanks to people like Timothy Leary and stuff like that, and they this widespread and I guess it doesn't yeah, kind of like I don't know how to categorize or what to call it, but just like the 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 less thoughtful use of the drugs, instead of using them, or the medicines, instead of using them from a therapeutic approach to try to help process trauma and cope with difficult things, or try to do some internal um, discovery for yourself, like personal, just trying to figure out life in general and struggles that you're going through. People are just doing them for fun, like they're just smoking weed or drinking beer, and it's like that's literally these
Yeah.
plant medicines were used for thousands of years, and they were not used like that. There was a great reverence around them, and they were used in very spiritual practices. um and even some of the catechism from Catholicism and stuff have roots in some of these ancient like plant medicines, like kind of altered state ceremonies.
Yeah.
um and it's really interesting to learn about that. But anyways, psychology is going in a direction where that is going to be one of the modalities through which people are trying to better understand themselves and process their lives and their life experiences. And if I were to go back to school, it would be to try to work with people in that capacity. um
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that.
yeah,
Yeah, that's super cool.
yeah,
Yeah, I would like to do something similar because I was always very interested in psychology, also crime and punishment, criminology. But
sure,
I always wanted to get into taking like microdosing mushrooms or even doing like ayahuasca because I have a lot of like stuff that like trauma and stuff from my past that I'd like to
sure.
deal with. And but I'm so scared to take anything. Have you ever done mushrooms?
Yes.
Yeah, how was your trip? See, I'm like terrified to do anything.
mm. So uh I'm like, I don't know how deep I want to get into this, but I honestly
Yeah.
like I was I'll say, let's say, so I have a lot of the friends I love. We all refer to ourselves as dirt bags. So I have a lot of dirt bag friends who have access to anything and everything. And most of my life, I never did anything else. Like I smoked a little weed. I found that weed, it was not my drug of choice. It always made me like super paranoid, and I just like couldn't hang.
Same. Yeah.
Alcohol has been kind of like my social hangout and whatever. And even I've kind of actually started to dial back off of that, just because like it really fucks with my sleep, honestly, more than anything. And as I get older, the payout the next day it's not fucking
It's
worth
not
it.
worth it.
So,
No.
and honestly, I think for the most part, I drank socially because I had social anxiety of a sort where I I felt like I needed that for as a social lubricant to be able to talk and be more
Yep.
of myself, this self that's guarded and hidden inside myself that I'm afraid to let out because I'm afraid to be judged for it. And
Yep.
so that helped to
Same.
reduce that inhibition. And and then and then I kind of started to become that person, and then the more I became my more authentic self, the less I realized that I needed the assistance essentially of alcohol. And so now if I drink anymore, it's usually only social situations, or if it's at dinner or something, it's like if I'm only going to have one or maybe two drinks, I'll just make sure they're really good ones, cuz I used to just buy like the
Yeah.
cheapest shit just to get buzzed as quickly as possible. But now because that's
Yep.
not what I'm going for anymore, like I want to get some nice stuff, enjoy it, savor it, and then
Yep.
just be fine. I don't need the buzz. I don't need that kind of like anymore. There are certain situations I feel like I do need it a little bit, but
Yeah.
most
That's
situations in my life I don't need it. So I'll have like a glass of wine or two at night, and
yeah.
not even like maybe once or twice a week. But other than that, I'm not really drinking as much anymore.
Yeah, that's
But
how I am too. I don't drink a lot anymore. I think like when we would be at Blade Show and stuff, that was when we're down in the pit, like that was the only time I drank. And I don't even
sure.
enjoy drinking. I did it because I had like or I do have horrible social anxiety, and then
Yeah.
I'd get buzzed and I would do dumb shit like have elevator parties, and I would steal like all the furniture and put it in the elevator, and then I would just
Oh
like
my
isolate
god.
myself in there. So I'm like, if I have to socialize, like people can come to us. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
Our elevator parties at the pit.
that's so
Yeah,
funny.
so yeah. So I'm the
Yeah.
same way. I don't drink much, but
Yeah.
yeah. So tell me your mushroom story.
Yeah, so I so outside so up to that point in my life, that's all really alcohol has been my kind of vice or whatever. And then I started to talk to a therapist because I was just like struggling in general with just life in general. Nothing too crazy, but I did start to come to a realization that if not only having like a level of anxiety and also undiagnosed ADHD most all my life, also struggling with depression probably most all my life. It's just, there's just been like oh, what's the word? This is my ADHD. Like I had the word a second ago, but anyway, there's like a stigma around it. That's the word.
Yeah.
There's a stigma around it, and so because of the stigma, a fear, and probably also a level of shame around having this thing that people stigmatize or think it makes you less of a person or less, whatever, a lesser, or makes you feel othered in a way. And so,
Mhm.
confronting it was a struggle, but I realized that it was definitely something that I had to kind of work on and for myself, if nobody else. And hopefully by making, working to make myself a better me, it helps then help me to be a better me for my family, my wife, my kid, my community, my
Yep.
friends, and so on. And so, but SSRIs, like traditional antidepressants, scare the shit out of me. And I was like,
Same, yeah.
before thinking about trying to figure that out and maybe go that route, I read things, and I've
Mhm.
read a bunch of books, and there are some interesting studies that are showing that depression isn't actually, or not always, or doesn't necessarily have to be tied directly to the lack of serotonin uptake, which is the SSRI is supposed to help with that serotonin uptake. But then there are so
Mhm.
many SSRIs, and they're all kind of a crapshoot, and you have to trial them for like 3 weeks, and then 3 weeks or three
Yeah.
months. I can't remember. It's a long time.
I think
And
it's
then
like 3 weeks, yeah.
yeah, so 3 weeks on just to build up to the tolerance that's supposed to be effective in your body. And then you have to ride it for 3 weeks to see how that works, and if it doesn't work, then you have to dial back, and then you have to, like, come back off of it. Peter out. You can't just
Yeah.
stop it cold, it'll fuck you up. You gotta come back off of
Yep.
it for another wean off of it essentially for another 3 weeks, and you have to keep trialing over and over, and some of these, like, if you are already experiencing heavy depression or suicidal ideation or any of that shit,
Yep.
like, it can exacerbate it to the point where a
Mhm.
lot of people actually end up killing themselves, taking their own lives because of the SSRIs that they were taking.
Yeah.
And then also studies showing that there isn't actually a direct correlation between serotonin uptake and depression makes me concerned about taking a drug that isn't actually necessary potentially, or
Mhm.
that is potentially going to exacerbate the darkness inside of me that I'm already experiencing. And and so then I started also, and over the years prior to this was like a few years ago. So leading up to that point, I think the studies at Johns Hopkins have been going on about mushrooms and the use of psychedelic mushrooms to help people with coping, like I said, with end of life mortality, like their fear of death, helping people struggling with PTSD. They've also found that it helps people with migraines, and these are like different dosages, different durations of
Yeah.
time of use, and all that kind of stuff that they're experimenting to find. But they're finding that they're very positive um, responses from these. That they are they're let's say the toxicity levels of them are extremely low, making them like incredibly safe. Um,
Yeah.
and you can and they pass through the body quite quickly, so you can be on and off in a few days.
Yeah.
And so after seeing some of these studies, then I started to learn more, and I put myself basically through like psychedelics 101 and 205 essentially. And I spent like a year reading up and learning about psychedelics, and because I had the same kind of programming where I was like, I had seen all this shit about like, this is your brain and this is your brain on drugs, and like the eggs frying in the
Yeah.
pan and shit.
Yeah. They're like melting into the couch.
Yeah,
Those
I'm like,
commercials.
what those commercials were about, and they never said this, and they should have been more specific, but those are like gnarly drugs like heroin and meth and crack and all this fucking
Yeah.
terrible stuff.
The bad
But they
shit.
just psychedelics got kind of pushed in with all those because since this early 70s, they were categorized as the same. But the reality is
Yeah.
they are not the fucking same. And
No, not at all.
there's a lot of work being done to help people understand that. But anyways, I put myself through this. I probably read like 12 different books, and a lot of them start out with the history of psychedelics and Albert Hoffman, who synthesized LSD from the ergotized, uh, I think, barley that would
Mhm.
grow. I can't remember when, or in parts of Europe, I think, and isolated it, and that became LSD, and and then he also did, I think, psilocin and whatever, I can't remember, and psilocybin from psychedelic mushrooms, which are the active
Mhm.
ingredients or the hallucinogenic aspects of psychedelic mushrooms. And but just like learning about the history, and learning about honestly the abuses and kind of the oh god, I'm struggling to find the word again. But just, yeah, the abuse, the misuse of these drugs as like party drugs when they're not fucking party drugs. Like they're
Yeah.
deep internal discovery medicines that help you, like
Mhm.
can be used to help people really like find their purpose in life, and or to cope with like what these studies have done, help to process PTSD and to cope with end of life mortality, like people who have cancer diagnoses, and they're like, basically, you have cancer, sorry, there's nothing we can do about it, you are going to die. uh,
Yeah.
and so facing that inevitable death with more bravery, or and less fear, because
Yeah.
the fear of death and your known like inevitable death within like who knows if you got a month or days or if it's like a year, like you that weight is sitting on you. And so if helping people to process through that in a meaningful way so that they have less of that fear. And so going through these experiences through psychedelic journeys to process that stress, that trauma, that pain, that struggle, that anger, sadness, whatever is going on, to help people have a better understanding of what their soul's experience is going to be afterward. And so for me, after doing all that, I was like, all right, I'll get a hold of some and then maybe I'll do some microdosing. And I found that the microdosing, I wasn't noticing, and I don't know if I was following the right schedule because I read a couple books also about microdosing. Um, Actually, like 3 different books about microdosing. But anyway, um, and I wasn't seeing the results, and I don't think that microdosing is necessarily a cure all. I think that is, I think the proper way to do it would actually be for it to be paired with some sort of
Like therapy or
therapy.
something.
Yeah, we were talking with like
Yeah.
talk therapy. I was like, I couldn't think of the word
Yeah.
or the phrase talk therapy. So coupling it with talk
Yeah.
therapy is the best way, I think, to use or for that to approach for that kind of like for using psychedelics in that way. And then
Yeah, of course.
I had I can't remember how much I had purchased, but I was getting to the point where I was like, well, I haven't really noticed a big difference. And I'd been doing that for like a few months at that point. And then I was like, okay, maybe before I don't have enough for like a larger dose for a macro dose. So microdosing
Mhm.
is essentially, there's tons of podcasts out there now. Actually, a really great one. It's called The Third Wave
Yep.
podcast, and it's all about psychedelics and how psychedelics are being used in therapeutic process or therapeutic modalities and stuff like that. But a microdose in general is supposed to be a dose that's small enough that it's subperceptual, means you do not feel or experience any of the things that you would normally experience in a psychedelic dosage, which is
Huh.
typically referred to as a macrodose. So a macrodose
Mhm.
meaning larger dose. And so where a microdose with psilocybin mushrooms would be, I think it's typically considered around 10 to 20 gram or milligrams, 10 to 20 milligrams, um, which is essentially a tenth of a gram, 1/10 to 2/10 of a gram. A macro dose is anything like 2.5 or higher. So
Mhm.
I did a 3-gram dose, which is essentially 300 times the microdose. Um,
Damn.
and it was an incredible experience. Um, I will disclose, or what is it called when you do like a disclosure or whatever? I do not endorse people. You know, if you're gonna do this, you should seek out your own information. Talk to your doctor, talk to your therapist, talk to your shaman, whoever. This is
Mhm.
not medical advice coming from me. I am not a physician, a psychologist, or I'm just a human out in the world trying to figure his way out through it. And I'm only speaking from my own experience, and about my own experience. So
Mhm.
and from that experience it was really helpful. um if more than anything, it was like a regaining perspective on this experience that we call life, and
Yeah.
and seeing where I've lost track of some of that perspective, where there's space to improve, make adjustments, um, and yeah, and kind of like what I perceive or understand now to be more of like the reality of life and our existence. Those wolves outside or those tweakers outside?
I know. I can't tell. Did you hear that? It
Yeah.
could be my
Oh,
too. Justin and Nash are in the back room. It's probably
oh,
him.
I
But
got
I
you.
was watching some tweakers across the street here a second ago too. So
I got
you
you.
never know. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that was my experience, and honestly, actually before I went into that macro dose experience, I was really nervous about it that I maybe I fucked it up by doing all this reading. Like I said, I read like a dozen different books. I was like, oh
Yeah.
no, maybe I totally fucked this up, and I was supposed to go into this with just like I was worried that I was like compartmentalizing or boxing myself in rather than it being more expansive as I was hoping for it to be. And actually, I feel like for me at least, doing the reading beforehand really was a good thing. It prepared me
Yeah.
for what I needed to know and what to expect to help with, especially with reduction of kind of essentially a bad trip or a negative trip experience. And my trip was very positive, and and yeah, and so
That's awesome.
I
Yeah,
think
that's
if
good to hear.
somebody,
See, I feel like I'm the same way. Like I have to do a lot of research and stuff before I do anything. And I've always wanted to take mushrooms or some sort of like psychedelic, but DMT is another thing that I would love to try as well. And ayahuasca, just something where I feel like it would give me a whole new perspective on life and yeah,
sure,
show me the meaning. And yeah, I don't know. I can't pull the trigger. I need to. I think you have to be with
yeah,
the right people too, right? Like, I don't think I could do it by myself. I'd have to be with somebody and I'd have to be with the right person to do it where I feel like
yeah,
safe. And yeah, my anxiety is so bad that I would probably eat it and then immediately be like, I'm having a panic attack. Like, take me to the hospital. So
sure, yeah, and a
yeah.
lot of these books they really stress, especially um, use if you first ideally using it as it was traditionally used as a kind of like a essentially a medicine, a
Hmm.
therapeutic medicine, to approach it with what they refer to as the three S's, which is the set, the setting, and the sitter. And sometimes they also throw in substance or the dope or like what is the medicine in general, because that will
Yeah.
also inform some of the stuff. But the basic three is the set. So what is your mindset going into this? What are you
Hmm.
hoping to get into it out of this, especially if you're approaching it as a therapeutic, from a therapeutic approach, having some sort of a few intentions going in as to what you're hoping to get out of the experience. um
Yeah.
what you like, even if they're like very short and simple but very clear questions about, like, like something as simple as like, what is my purpose in this life? Or it could be like, how do I get past these traumas, like stuff like that. So having kind of a reason for why you're approaching, or using this approach. And then so that's the mindset going in. The setting is like, where are you physically? Are you in a place,
Yeah.
are you at a fucking party surrounded by a bunch of strangers where you're not going to feel safe, you're
Right.
going to feel anxious or nervous or whatever, you're worried about being judged or something like that? Don't do that. Be somewhere where you feel safe, where you feel comfortable, where you don't feel
Hmm.
like you're judged, um, where you're familiar, you have like a blanket or a couch somewhere you like to snuggle down and just be like cuddled in and do your thing for that experience. And then setter or sitter is having somebody there with you through that experience,
Hmm.
somebody that somebody you know and trust, you have a relationship, whether it's the therapist, whether there are also sitting like certified guides, or people who are guides who've guided people through other like psychedelic experiences. It could be family, it could be your husband, it could be a sister, somebody you trust and know loves you and isn't going to judge you and is going to be there to support you, um, through that experience. And honestly, more than anything, the most support, or the support most people need, is like standing up and making their way to the bathroom, because you do feel you have kind of like a buzz in a way, like you've been drinking alcohol, but you haven't. So it's like just
Yeah.
making sure that you can safely make it to the bathroom, back. If you need water, getting water. If you're feeling like you're having a difficult experience or part of the thing, especially if you have a lot of heavy trauma from your past, um,
Mhm.
somebody there that can hold your hand and support you and help remind you that you are in a safe place, that you are safe physically, and trying to help you to surrender to the experience. Because letting go and surrendering to the experience and not pushing back on the experience is the hardest thing and the most important thing that you have to be able to do. Otherwise, that is often what leads to difficult psychedelic experience for a lot of people, from my
Yeah, people
understanding
having bad
through the
trips.
reading. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and
exactly.
and not having a lot of those things in alignment, like if you're if you don't have a mindset, you're just like, oh, this is supposed to be fun, and
Yeah,
that's not what it's actually for. And it takes you to a
yeah,
really heavy place where it's like, okay, guess what, I know you're at this party, but we're going to process some trauma from when you were 13 years old. And you're like,
yeah.
fuck.
You're
That's not what
fuck.
I thought I
Yeah,
was getting
it's a
into.
bad idea. Yeah.
And then the setting, like, again, if you're at a party surrounded by a bunch of people, like, if you've already been drinking, like, you don't want to be under the influence of anything else, even smoking cigarettes or having a drink or anything. Some people are like, they might feel anxious about taking a dose, and they're like, okay, this is gonna help
Yeah.
calm me down. That's not gonna help.
No.
um you have to do it by itself. In fact, a lot of traditions that have used these type of plant medicines for a long time, they have what's, especially in Central America, they have what's called a dieta, or your diet. And it's like a regime that you go through in preparing your body for this experience. Like
Yeah.
it's like a true, like a full-on ceremony. Like Mike Poor jumped in. He said, um when we get together, we'll have to talk about how I'll have to tell you about having all night magic mushroom ceremonies with Mazatec shaman in Mexico. So the
Oh, see, that
curanderos,
sounds amazing.
yeah, that would be fucking amazing. The
Yeah.
curanderos, which are like the shaman in Central America, and especially in Mexico, are the guides. They're the shaman. They're the spiritual people that help with guiding people through these kind of experience, because they can be super fucking heavy, and for the most part they
Mhm.
are, and they should be treated with the respect that they deserve because of how heavy they can be. um
Yeah.
so and we got way off knives, but
I know, I love it.
I guess to bring it back to knives, through that experience, some of what I learned or uh, gleaned from that experience is that I've been, um I guess, blessed, for lack of better words, for with like talent and skill and a different way of thinking about the processes of knife making. And while that is handy for me to be able to make a living for myself and to support my family, um my greater purpose with these skills and talents is to share it with others and to help people, either directly by offering them a service or making them a product, but also helping people along their own journeys, um, or to help create inspiration for people to help them along whatever journey they're on, trying to figure out their own thing, whether it's knife making, or maybe it's woodworking, or maybe it's watchmaking, or maybe it's fucking doing macrame or crochet or whatever, whatever it is. Because I honestly,
Yeah.
like, I gain inspiration from all kinds of different disciplines. I don't just have, like,
Mhm.
knife maker. I have all kinds of different people that I follow. Like dancers, singers, musicians, like
Yeah.
all kinds of different disciplines. All of these things are us expressing our genius and contributing to the world in a meaningful way. Again, because all these things either provide inspiration or they provide value, or utility to the world, at large. And I think
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
is that is what I got out of my experience. As part of my experience, it wasn't the whole thing, but it was part of it. So,
Yeah. I love that. I think you'd make an amazing, I mean, well, you already are a teacher, but yeah, a teacher, a counselor. Yeah, because you're amazing at talking to people and teaching, and yeah, I think that's great.
yeah, and part of me, like, still thinks about it as maybe something maybe I do somewhere down the road. But right now,
Yeah.
while I can still make knives, I'm still gonna keep making knives. So, Jesus Christ, I will say I'm definitely not in the best physical shape of my life right now. Um, Knife making is fucking destroying my body right now, but
Is it?
I'm
How
still
come?
it's because I'm stupid, and because I don't take, like, fucking 5 minutes in the morning to stretch.
Yep.
I know this works. If I just take 5 fucking minutes in the morning, even if I take
Yep.
10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
To do a little bit of stretching. Get up a little bit early. Start by stretching. Dude, I will
Mhm.
feel so much better all fucking day
Yeah.
long versus how rickety and cracked up. Like my body feels so rigid and stiff. I feel like an
Oh, I
80-year-old
know.
man. And
Dude, same. How old are you?
40. I just turned 40.
40, yeah. Dude, I mean, when I hit 30, I'm 36 now, almost 37. But yeah, when I turned 30, I was like, oof, everything's starting to hurt a little bit more. And yeah, you got to do those stretches. I'm in bed
I,
by like 7 o'clock every night too. If I don't get sleep, like,
that sounds
yeah,
great.
it's bad.
Well,
Yeah.
not the lack of sleep part, but I remember the lack of sleep from the young baby days. Fuck.
Oh, it's the
And
worst.
I
I
wasn't even
forgot
the
all
one like,
about it.
yeah, I wasn't even the one that was up feeding the dude every fucking time.
Yeah, it's
And
bad.
I still like was fucking with my sleep, and I was just so groggy and tired, and ugh, I
Yeah.
feel bad.
How old
Yeah, I
is your
can't
kid
even.
now?
8.
8. So
He's 8.
Bailey is 17. And so when I had Nash, I was like, man, I forgot all about all of this. Like, I forgot how many times they get up in the middle of the night and have to be fed. And yeah, I'm like, when do they start talking? When do they start walking? Like, this is all so new to me.
Yeah, it's like doing it for the first time. I remember I read
Yeah.
an article, I can't remember where, but there was like some part, and I don't know, I can't remember if this is like proven or if it was just like a survey or something like that. But there's like essentially what they're trying to say is that there's part of the woman's biology that kind of helps them to forget kind of the struggle of all this shit, so that when it's
Yeah.
like when it's time to have a baby again, they're like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And then then you're in it again, you're like, fuck, this sucks.
Yeah. Why did I do this? Yeah, I'll never fucking do this again. Yeah. It's so
That's what
true.
journal you gotta write a journal and be like, okay, this is what happened today, and this is why today sucked.
Yeah, yeah. Remember when you were throwing up all day and you kept saying, I'm never gonna fucking do this again? Yeah. Don't forget about that.
Yeah. That,
Oh, that's true. It's
yeah,
hilarious.
my wife hated being pregnant. She's like, you know those women that are like, "Oh, it's so magical." She's like, "Fuck them." She's like, I
Dude,
mean,
that's exactly what I
she's
said.
like, "Good for them, but also fuck them
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
being
but also
pregnant
fuck you.
fucking sucks."
Dude, yeah, everyone's like, it's so magical, it's such a blessing. It's like, yeah, but it still fucking sucks. Like, I'm 50 pounds overweight. Like, my ankles are this big. Like, yeah, I'm
Ugh.
throwing up all the time. The worst. I hated it. I hate being pregnant. Ugh,
I mean,
that's funny.
ethereally, it is pretty fucking amazing that a human can grow another human, and
Yeah,
yeah, but at the same time, yeah, it totally fucks up your body. So
yeah,
my
yeah.
wife
And
was
your
like,
emotions and everything.
yeah, and she wasn't even, like, super sick. It's like, amazingly, she wasn't, like, super sick or anything during the whole thing. She's just like, I was just uncomfortable in my body the whole fucking time. It's like having
Yeah,
a guest to your like, you invited this guest to come stay at your house, and now they're there for fucking 10 months, and it's
yeah.
like, "Okay, we need
I've had enough.
this needs to be done.
Yeah,
I need you to go
exactly.
home. Go back to your
I love it.
fucking house."
Yeah, that's a great analogy. I love that. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the worst.
Ugh. Let's see. Mike chimed in here with another comment. He said, have either of you tried a wobble chair for grinding? Also, changing the angle of your platen and height can really help you keep your neck from looking forward instead of down. Uh, So that is actually something I've tried to do a little bit more, is because I almost for like almost all my knife making career, my platen has been completely vertical because
Mhm.
that's how one, that's how they come, and two, like that's how I've always stood at a grinder. But even adjusting it at a slight angle like this, you can still push directly into the platen. But I like for me, I have to look straight down the platen,
Yeah.
and so I was always like right over the top, like looking straight down the fucking thing. But
Yep.
if you pop it at a slight angle, you can still look straight down it without craning your head. You still gotta like turn your head a little bit, but you're not like you're not like
Yeah.
really like what is it? Like a kettle, like a tea kettle spout or whatever, like
Yeah.
over.
Yep.
And yeah,
Yeah,
that
that's the
is
worst. I feel like I'm gonna get
tough.
like scoliosis from being like hunched over all the time.
Yeah, and I was trying to do the seated thing for a long time, but the way my chair, like I would have to get a taller chair, I think. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know, but it still was like kind of awkward because I really benefit from having the leverage of my feet planted on the ground and pushing into the
Yeah.
platen. And that's why I like
Yep.
tilting it just a little bit because that way I don't have to have my head craned over so far. I can
Yeah.
I can look down without really moving my head too much. I usually end up turning my head just a little bit, but not so crazy. Um, but when I was seated, I was pushing more like upward into that angled platen, and it was like using a bunch of weird muscles that I hadn't been using, and
Yep.
but that's because I was using my muscles versus standing up. I can just kind of like hold on to it and just lean into it, and my body weight, my muscles are isolated, my arms are
Yeah.
isolated, and it's the weight of my body leaning forward. So I'm not using the strength of my muscles, but the weight of my body to create the pressure.
Yep.
Um, and so I've tried the seated stuff. I don't know. I'd have to find it. It'd have to be like the right setup, but even also just like the seated position, like I'm not used to having my spine like perfectly straight and like with all the lumbar support. And I feel like when I'm grinding, I have to do that, and that activates other weird muscles in my lower back.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think I just need to be smart and not be stupid, like I was saying before. Don't be
Do your
stupid.
stretches.
Not only stretch, guess what? I could also probably take like a forward 5 or 10 minutes in the middle of the day instead of my fucking doom scrolling. I could fucking take 5 or 10 minutes and do a little bit more stretching, and that's gonna
Yep.
also help in a big fucking way. Twice a day would make a huge difference
Yep.
in my body.
We're
And
like, we're
I'm
gonna be
just
stupid instead.
I'm
No,
just
just
stupid.
stupid
It's
or
like I know
stubborn.
what I'm supposed to do, and I'm not
Yeah.
doing it. I'm just being
Yeah.
fucking no, lazy. No, I don't think it's stubbornness. For me, it's laziness.
Yeah. See, mine's just stubbornness. Yeah. And probably being lazy too. Yeah.
Yeah. But
No,
people
that's great.
stretch. You got to stretch your bodies.
Yes.
Okay. So
Definitely.
to get back to the knife making.
I love it.
um how did you when was it that you started making your own knives? 'Cause obviously you must have been like with whether fishing or hunting, you're field dressing or breaking down animals in the field, or even just as your for your general survivalist skills and stuff like that. You're using the knives out in the bush, in the woods, wherever, to take care of business. How does that translate to you then starting to make your own knives?
So I actually started doing knife reviews back in 2012, and since I was so into like the outdoors and hunting and survival and all of that, I had a friend that suggested to start a YouTube channel. They were just like, hey, like there's not a lot of females that do this kind of stuff. You should really
Right.
start making videos and give like a female's perspective on these things. And I was like, yeah, that's actually a great idea. Yeah, so I started a YouTube channel where I talked about like different guns that I would carry that were easy to conceal for women. Yeah, different like outdoor products and survival tips and tricks. And then I started doing knife reviews. And I kind of just felt like a fraud doing reviews on other people's work without knowing how to do it myself. I just, yeah. So I was like, I can't be reviewing somebody
You're the
else's
Simon
stuff. It's
Cowell
like,
of knife reviews.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I was like, I have to learn how to do this. So I had a pretty good gun and knife collection at that point. And so I
Sure.
sold my gun and my knife collection and I bought
Oh
just
wow.
a few pieces of equipment. And then I was working 3 jobs at the time. I was waitressing, bartending, and I was working at a hair salon as well. And so in between like downtime at these jobs, I would just watch knife reviews or knife tutorials and stuff on like how to make knives on YouTube. And then I taught myself how to do it, just trial and error. And yeah, that's how I got
Wow.
started.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
and then I just fell in love with it. I was like, man, I want to do this for a living. And I slowly like cut back on my jobs and then turned this into a full-time gig.
Right. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's wild. And how long so when that was so you were doing the reviews in 2012. When did you start making knives?
I think like 2014 is when I
Okay.
started.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I started 2013,
Okay.
and then I think I started selling on like 2014,
I got you.
but
Yeah.
nothing crazy. I like didn't want to sell my work until I was super proud. I still am like such a critic of my work, but
I 100% am as well. Like, while people
right?
look at it and they're like, "Wow, this is awesome." Like, as the maker, I think we have a very different point of view because we're so close to it. It's because we fucking made it. We like, we
Yeah.
know like, this is a little not where it should be, or this is a little off,
Yep.
like all that shit. And I'm just like,
It's
I've
terrible.
over the years I've tried, like, because I've really struggled with perfectionism as part of the therapeutic
Yep.
work that I've been doing. Struggling with perfectionism is one thing I've really tried to work past and get over. And and yeah, so letting some of that shit go has been actually pretty helpful, to the in regards to the mental weight that I would carry, because I'd be like,
Yeah.
I'm a fucking liar. I'm a shill. I'm just selling bullshit," and which wasn't true at all. I was just being
No.
overly critical and perfectionistic, and that's just
Yep.
not
Well,
realistic.
it's
It's not
hard. It's
right.
like I feel like I have imposter syndrome. Do you feel that way?
Yes.
Yeah, it's terrible. And like I know what I'm doing and I'm a decent knife maker, but I'm like every knife I make, I'm like, this is garbage. This is trash.
Yeah.
And then I'll finish something and it'll sit on my workbench for like a month because I don't want to ship it out yet. Because I'll go back to it and I'll be like, well, I can fix this or adjust this or it's
Mm,
terrible. And then finally, like my husband will be like, you need to ship that out. Just send it out. It looks
sure.
great. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's trash. I gotta
Yeah,
start over.
yeah. For me, the thing that I've found is, or come to the realization of, is that it's never gonna be perfect. Perfect actually is not
Mhm.
realistic. It's not only is it not realistic, it's just not real.
Yeah.
And so for me, I've been like, okay, so then what is a metric I can use by which I can say this is good and move the fuck on? And
Yeah.
it is, if not learning a new process, which I've pretty well set up. It's just, it's at least improving even in the slightest incremental way, the most incremental way on any small, either a big aspect or a small aspect of my finishing work, or my grinding or whatever. And
Hmm.
as long as I've done that, it's a fucking win. And when it's done, I need to get it out the door. And knowing
Exactly.
that it's not gonna be like, it's not gonna be perfect. It's just never gonna be perfect. No, not nothing
Yeah.
out there in the world is actually fucking perfect. And
Yeah.
so by shifting in my own mind, like, what I needed for myself to feel good about moving on, that's what I shifted it to, is like, okay, is there something that I've actually made an improvement on or done better? And if I have, and usually at least like I said, even in a tiniest little incremental way, I'm good,
Yeah.
and I move forward.
Yeah. Send it out. Exactly.
And at
Yeah.
that
I
point,
need
I
to
feel
do
like I
that.
can let it go. Yeah, and but it's fucking hard. Like, I'm right there with you. And it's only been in the
Yeah.
last or 2, year and a half, that
Hmm.
I've kind of like come to that understanding and that realization that I need to, like,
Yeah.
because honestly, like, holding on to it is not helping me or the knife. I'm
Yeah.
not letting go of that shit. And the more
Sometimes
I
I
hold
will
on,
put stuff.
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, 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 go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say sometimes when I put stuff down and then I come back to it later, I'll be like, all right, it's not so bad, and then I have a clearer understanding of like what I need to fix or adjust. But yeah, for the most, especially like when I'm having a bad day out in the shop, like if I'm fucking stuff up, I'm like, I gotta just put this down and walk away. And then if I
Yeah,
come back to it, a few days later, I'm like, all right, I'm okay now. Like I can change this and then it'll be good to go. But yeah,
that's
just
why.
having it sit on the bench where you can just keep staring at it, it's not good for me.
Yeah, no, that's called wisdom. I It took me a long time to come to that realization that if I'm just
Same.
like doing a thing that I've done hundreds of times, but for whatever fucking reason today is not jiving,
Yep.
I need to set that shit down and go find something out, even
Yeah.
if it's just fucking sweeping the floor. Like,
Yep.
letting it go. And because many times in the past, I'm like, ah, I know what I feel like I know what needs to be happening, but I'm just not capable of it in that moment. And I
Yep.
honestly just end up making things worse, which makes
Yeah.
me more fucking frustrated and pissed off. And then I keep
Yep.
trying and it makes it worse. And it just is a
Yep.
downward spiral.
The
And
domino effect.
yeah,
Yep.
for sure. And so it is a wise thing that if you are just not feeling it or really struggling to set it down, or if you're not feeling very good about, like I've done that lots of times where I'm like, I'm fucking pissed about this. It didn't turn out the way, or this, like,
Yep.
this doesn't look right. That doesn't look right. And I'm super annoyed with it. And then I'll set it down and I'll just leave it. And I've left stuff for like
Yeah.
years. And then I come back to it and I'm
That's
like,
awesome.
oh, that's not so
Yeah.
bad.
I
I
can
think
work with this.
I
Yeah,
just it's not so
exactly.
bad. I actually, yeah, I can work with this. I think I was just, I don't
Yep.
know what it was going on. Like maybe it was have other shit was bothering me in my life at that time, and so I was having a hard time. This isn't that bad
Yep.
actually. I can make this work. All right, let's finish this
Yeah.
up and let's get it out. Get it the fuck out of here.
Yeah, exactly. That's so good. I've it's taken me a long time to get to this point. I used to have at my old shop, I called it the knife tree because whenever I fucked something up, I would get pissed and I would just take it and I'd chuck outside, and I didn't realize like I was chucking it in the same spot each time, and I just had a knife, a tree full of like fucked up knives, yeah, outside of my shop. So it's funny, but yeah, it
Yeah,
took me a while to be like, hey, just chill out, put it down, and walk away. I usually
yeah.
have to leave the shop. I can't even sweep the floor because I'll probably
Oh yeah.
fuck that up
No, no,
too.
no.
Yeah, I'm like, I just
Yeah.
gotta go.
There are many days where I'm like, I can't be here anymore. I'm too like I'm
Yeah,
so annoyed and pissed off that I just and
right.
yeah, it's just what I gotta
Yes.
I've learned that's just what I gotta do for me. It's maybe not the
Yep.
best solution
Exactly.
for everybody, but for me, it helps because otherwise, if I stick around, I usually just mess up other stuff.
Yeah, it's not
So,
worth it. Just go home. Take a day off. Yep. Yeah.
and so these knives, have you taken some of these knives with you when you've done? Because you've okay, so you've been on Naked and Afraid, and
Mhm.
how I actually haven't watched that show, and I've heard somebody describe it like it's like Alone, but they're naked. But I don't know if that's actually
Yeah.
what it's like. And since you've been on the show, can you tell like what is it? What's the show about? And then like how many times you've been on it, and what is that experience like? Because I would be a little bitch and be like, no, I can't do this shit. I'm not built for that.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love it. Yeah, so it's you're usually with a partner for I've done it 5 different times now.
Holy
So
shit, 5 times?
there's yeah, there's different levels. So you can do like a 21 day, a 40 day, a 60 day. I did a solo one. I did another one that I can't talk about yet, but
No?
yeah, so there's like different ones that you can do. The 21 day is that's usually with one partner. Yeah, and you're naked, and people are always like, oh, that's like, why do you have to be naked? I see the gimmicky side of it, but it's essentially it's stripping you completely raw and naked of everything that you have. Because when you think about it, survival, like your clothing is such a huge part of survival. It's what keeps you
Right,
warm or cold or protected from the sun, the elements, like bugs, all of that stuff. So when you take away someone's clothing, that's a huge part of survival. So it is a little gimmicky, but that's also a big part of it. So yeah, and
well,
you just have to survive
I was just
with
gonna
with barely anything.
if people think about it like primitive man, and there are actually
Hmm.
still tribes that are like untouched, like in South
Yeah, they're
America
naked.
and other
Yeah,
parts of the world that are like, and it makes sense because maybe like those places are hot or something like that. But like there are
yeah,
people that like have lived like that for fucking centuries that are still
yeah,
living like that
exactly.
in like basically like Paleolithic life
Yeah,
today. It's
yeah,
fucking crazy.
yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah,
it's
if I
not
could
too
do
far of
that
a
here
stretch
and
to
now,
be
I
like,
would totally.
yeah, I don't
Yeah.
feel like it's too far of a stretch to be like, guess what? You got to do this naked. And it's like, okay, there are actually still people doing that. So, okay, I don't normally do that, but let's try it.
Yeah, it's everyone gets so they're shocked when you say that. They're like, "Oh, it's just a gimmick for TV," and I'm like, "Yeah, if you really think about it, like clothing is a huge part of survival. It really is." So, but yeah, and you can make clothes if you want. I usually don't. I enjoy being naked, so not in like a weird way. It's just yeah. I mean, like nobody's around me either when I'm out there. Like
Sure.
they think that there's like a people usually think there's like a huge camera crew. There really isn't. Like you have one camera guy, your producers out there, and then like a sound person, and then of course your partner. But
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, you have to survive with whatever's in your surroundings. So you
How
usually sometimes can bring one item. So like usually I always make a knife and take that with me. On my bigger challenges, I did 60 days and a 40 day, and I brought my bow and arrows with me.
right.
So yeah,
Yeah, I think I've seen promo shots of you like with your bow. That's pretty
yeah,
cool.
hell yeah, yeah. That
How
was so
did
much fun.
you first hear about it? Like, how do you learn about these things?
Um,
Did they reach out to you or
Yeah, so they sent me a message back in 2014, and they found like it was right around the same time that I started doing knife reviews. I was a few years in at that point. So
yeah,
2014, they reached out and they were like, "Hey, we saw your reviews. We see that you're like into survival and outdoor stuff. Would you like to come on this show?" And I was like, "Yeah, right." And I thought it was a joke. Um,
sure.
and they ended up reaching out like a handful more times, and finally I was just like, fuck it, like what's the worst that can happen? And then the next thing I knew, I was boarding a plane and flying out to Colombia and stripping down naked and yeah, living in the jungle there for 21
Crazy.
days. So
What,
yeah.
what I would feel so awkward. What is that? Well, but it sounds like you're very comfortable in your own skin. What is like the first day on the first show? What was that like? Like with all the other contestants and stuff? Because you guys are together as a group to start, and then you break off, or
Yeah, so for my 21 day, I was just with a partner. So you
okay,
usually with the opposite sex. So I was with this guy David, who's like the complete opposite of me. He's still a good friend to this day, and I talk
yeah,
to him, but just complete opposite with me. He's like not into like guns or knives. He's like a yoga instructor, and yeah. So they usually try to pair you with somebody that they think you'll have conflict with.
okay,
But yeah, stripping down, it was. Yeah, I mean, I was really uncomfortable at first. I was like, this is so strange and weird. I'm like getting naked in front of a camera crew. But I mean, you get used to it right away because
sure.
you're immediately like getting eaten alive by bugs, and you're like, I gotta like get into survival mode, and yeah, so
Is it
you forget about
instantaneously
that
not
quickly.
sexy?
Yeah, no, not exactly. Yeah, I know. I remember walking through the jungle with him one day, and I was like, "Damn, he really stinks." And then I was like, "Oh, that's me." Like my armpits were just fucking stinky. That's
Oh,
funny.
that's hilarious. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's
That's
cool though, because like when you're out there for so long, like that was within like the first few days, right? You start smelling bad, but like
true.
everyone's like, you must have smelled disgusting, and you actually don't. You kind of smell like earthy after a while because your
Sure.
body's just getting rid of like all those toxins and shit in your body. So
Well, that's
it's just
interesting.
like
I never really
cleansing
thought
you.
about that. Yeah, so
Yeah.
what were some of the like things you weren't expecting from that experience? Like yourself, and maybe you were expecting that to happen with like the change in your scent, but like what are some other like unexpected things that occurred or unknowns about it that you experienced or learned from the through the I guess these various experiences?
Yeah, I mean, it gave me a whole new perspective on life just in general because I had never really been out of the United States. I think I
Sure.
went out of like I think I'd only been to like Colorado at that point. So leaving the country and going somewhere else, I was like, holy shit, this was crazy. Like there's a whole big world out here. And
Yeah.
it opened my eyes to so many different things. It definitely made me a lot more patient too. And just made me
Mm,
like want to just slow things down and take in my surroundings and be very like in the moment with life back home. And yeah,
yeah.
and just realize that like things are not a big deal. Like things that you worry about, it's not a big deal. So it taught me like yeah, just to be patient and enjoy my surroundings and be in the moment.
And so your first
I
one
mean,
was
among
in
like many
sorry, go
other
ahead.
things as well, but yeah.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
among like many other things, but yeah, those are the main things.
What about tell me about like what do you think you or what do you think you yeah, how do you Jesus Christ. Sorry. Back up,
You're
rewind.
fine.
I got like 5 different things trying to rush out of my face at the same time. Um
Dude, that's how my brain is. It's like
yeah.
I have
I'm
so
trying
many
to say
things going
one
on at
thing
once.
and like 6 are trying to come out.
I
Um
love it.
what 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 is what is the thing that you feel like or like the biggest lesson or in regards to or yeah, yourself and what you learned about yourself, maybe around like your own self-confidence or motivation or God, just like, yeah, just the resilience
Yeah.
that either you learn that you have that you didn't know, or you developed through having those experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely learned like just how capable and how strong of a person I actually am. I have
Mm,
like huge self-esteem issues. I'm not like confident in my abilities. I feel like I have horrible imposter syndrome, and like
sure.
I hate doing podcasts and stuff because I hate talking about myself. I'm
Right.
always like, ah, people aren't interested. Like, they don't want to know anything about me. And so I end up like doubting myself and what I'm capable of, and stuff like that. So I think those shows definitely, I mean, even I've done so many of them and I still will get out there and be like, I don't know, just doubt myself. I did my
Yeah.
solo one in Mexico, and my producer kept saying like, "We got to get you out here to do a solo one. Like, you'd be amazing at it." And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I can do it. Like, I don't think I'd be. I don't know. Like, I was just doubting myself, and then I got out there, and it just completely changed my life. I was like, this is incredible. Like, I did this all by myself. I didn't do it without a partner. No one helped me. Like,
Right.
it just made me realize what I'm capable of, and that I should be more confident in myself. Yeah.
Yeah. Mike's got a question here that's kind of along the lines of what I've been asking, but he says, "What are some of the lessons learned from your survival or naked and afraid that you bring back into your knife making?" That's a great question. So
Oh, I
lessons you've
mean,
learned from those
definitely.
experiences. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely just like what I would be using the knife out there for. So in all these survival
Mm,
situations, what am I using my knife for? Making primitive traps, cutting different things, like building shelters. And then
yeah.
how is that going to turn into like the perfect survival knife where you don't need like a big machete for cutting down trees to make a shelter, but you also need something smaller to, like whittle wood to do primitive traps and stuff. So
Right.
yeah, definitely taking each experience and yeah, trying to build the perfect survival knife.
Do you feel like you've accomplished that you have dialed in that knife, or at least for your specific processes and techniques that you use?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm still trying, but I
Sure.
mean, every time I go away and do one of these challenges, I come back and I'm like, oh, like my knife should have had this on it or that on it.
Mm,
I wish it had this kind of grind. But it's so hard too because each environment is so different. Like when I was in
sure.
Africa, I thought that I was going to need a big machete. I definitely did not. Like I just
Okay.
needed a small knife. When I was in
Okay.
Colombia, a machete was amazing, and I didn't need a smaller knife at all. So
I see.
it just depends. Trying to find that perfect size, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I think something that it sounds like you're getting out of those experiences is a deep understanding of the tool, and I think a lot of people are making knives. In my
Mhm.
experience, I see a lot of people making culinary knives who don't understand how to use a culinary knife. And even as
Yeah.
much feedback as you might get from somebody who may be knowledgeable or
Mhm.
talented with a culinary knife, it is not the same thing as having that experience yourself. And you might not ever get to like that high level or professional level of using a cooking knife to cut vegetables and meat in all these different ways, but really having that hands-on experience really makes a big fucking difference in your understanding of that tool. And it sounds like that's
Yeah.
something you really got out of those experiences, and continue to
Yeah.
tailor your work or design knives that would suit those different experiences. But that does make sense. What you're saying is like, you can design a knife as best as you can based off your past experience, but you don't know what's coming up next. And I don't know, maybe you do know what's coming
Yeah.
up next, but you don't know what you're gonna experience exactly. And so
Yeah.
while you can do your best from your past experience to inform the design and the function of that tool, it might not necessarily suit that exact experience that you're going into next.
Exactly. Yeah. Well said. That's exactly what I was trying to say. Yeah. I'm terrible with words. So,
No, you said it.
but
It's
yeah.
just
Yeah.
it's just a good
Yeah.
point, and it's something I never even took into consideration, because I tell people to like learn about chef's knives, and that's a pretty predictable experience. You can come back like to using a chef's,
Yeah.
but when you're designing a knife, is a very interesting question from Mike, but it does make sense how you can't you got to have the right tool for the job more than anything, and
Yeah. Exactly.
and the situation, and not every knife is suitable for every situation. But I think
Yeah. So just trying to find like the best of both worlds and stuff. So
yeah.
that you have a good functioning tool.
And Mike is also adding. He said it would be. It would also. Or sorry, it would be cool to see the knives that you brought for each of the Naked Afraid seasons. Do you have those? I
Yeah,
have your
definitely.
Instagram pulled up actually. Do you know? Are they on there somewhere?
They should be, yeah. I did two machetes and a bushcraft knife. Yeah, and then like
Did
a smaller fixed blade as well. But yeah, they're on there, but you'd have to scroll so far down.
you have to dig? What did
Yeah.
the machetes look like? What style of machete, or what did you like? What were the features, or why did you actually? Was it a machete or like a kukri?
Yeah, so my first one was it was more of like a kukri style. Um,
Okay.
and yeah, oh my God, why am I drawing a blank right now? Ryan helped me. What is Ryan's last name? Ryan helped me. I sent it out to have him heat treat it for me, and he did like a badass Simone on it. And oh my God, you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Anyway, so doesn't matter. Yeah, you're like, no, there's a million
Ryan.
fucking Ryan. Yeah, Ryan, yeah,
Thanks,
fuck.
Ryan.
Anyways, yeah, shout out to Ryan. Yeah, anyway, so that was more of like a kukri style knife,
Okay.
and then I did a machete, and then I did like a smaller, just bushcraft style knife. But
Okay.
yeah, each one, yeah, well, like when I was going to be in Colombia, I knew I wanted something that was going to have a lot of weight behind it because I knew I was
Sure.
going to be cutting down a lot of trees. Um, and then when I was in Africa, I did like a larger style bushcraft knife, but it didn't help me at all. So
Oh shit. Okay.
yeah, I needed something like a lot smaller because there really wasn't anything out there. There's hardly any trees or anything where I needed, a
I
big knife. So
Yeah, I got you. Interesting.
yeah.
And you do how did your experience, or I guess how did being on the show affect your business? And I guess we talked a little bit about life, but how has it impacted your business and your life, I guess, in general after being on the shows or those different seasons?
Um, it didn't. It didn't really. I mean, I don't really tell people that I went on the show. I don't really talk about it a lot, so I don't think most people know that I did it.
Well, I mean, sorry. So, like, uh, do you talk about the fact that you're a knife maker when you do the show? And because I guess my thought would be like, oh, people would see her on the show, um, and competing, and somehow either like look her up or find out that she's a knife maker, and then reach out to her about getting a knife made. Has that
Yeah.
happened like that very much, or
Yeah, I get a handful of people, but it's mostly just like creepy people that are like, "Oh, she was naked, so she must be like an exhibitionist,"
oh, cool.
and
Okay.
and ask like for feet pics and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I mean I get like a handful of people that watch the show and then reach out, but also I'm shadow banned on everything, so people have a hard time even finding me in general. So
Oh, right.
there might be
Yeah.
a lot more people that are trying to look me up and reach out, but can't. Plus, everyone spells my name wrong, so I don't know. I feel like maybe they try to look me up, but
Sure.
I don't know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
No, I get more
Because
like weird emails than anything from doing the show.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
remember you showing me some of the, like, unsolicited pics that people send you, and,
Yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ. People gotta find better shit to do with their time.
No one does that to me anymore though, because I used to like if somebody would send me a dick pic, I would dress it up in costumes. Like one time I would dress it up as like the Fawns with, like the cool leather jacket and like glasses. Or like a Spartan warrior or a firefighter. Like I would dress them up and then I would repost them on my story with like
With
all
their
their
name and every
information.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
yeah!
Yeah. And
Wow.
so
That's so
and then
great.
all
I
my
love that.
followers would be like, "What a piece of shit!" And then they would contact like the person's employer or like, "Do you see what your employee's doing?" Like my followers were ruthless. So no one does that to me anymore, thank God. But yeah, I had some funny pictures.
That's a strong move. Yeah,
Yeah, right. It's
people just
bold.
bug me on, and I block them, and so I'm known for just blocking people.
There you
Um
go. That works too,
But
though.
but no, but I think that's what you're doing is much more impressive. People get all worked up that I get. They're like, I want to ask you a question, but I don't want you to block me. I'm like, people get blocked when they're fucking shitty about it. They're like, they'll
Yeah.
message. I'll get cold message, and people will be like, "Yo, I need you to tell me this, that, and the other thing, and how you doing that." I'm like, "Who the fuck are you?" Like, I don't even know. You
Yeah.
didn't even
What?
start with saying, "Hi, my name's
Hey.
Justin, and I'm new at
Yeah.
knife making." You're just like talking to me like we've been friends or enemies for like 15 years, and and I'm just like, "No,
Dude.
sorry." It's
Yeah.
crazy.
People are a trip. Yeah.
Well, and
That's
especially when
wild.
they're communicating. Well, yeah, honestly, even when they're communicating in person, but especially through a veil of sorts like the internet, people like they talk in ways that it seems like they probably normally would not talk in real life.
Oh
Or
yeah.
like a fucking dude would like walk up to you and pull his fucking pants down and be like, check that out. Like there's no
Oh
fucking
my
way.
God. If anybody, I feel like nobody would dare do that to me. Oh my God.
Now you just pull one of your
They'd be,
knives out and cut his dick off.
yeah, exactly.
Hey,
Yeah.
goodbye.
They should, they should be very scared. Uh,
Oh my god,
that's
fucking
hilarious.
people.
Yeah,
But
it's bad.
I I don't know. I'm just like endlessly impressed by the whole like survivalist shit because I am such yeah, I refer to myself as a little bitch because I feel like that is something that I'm very intrigued by and have always been interested in it, but I've never really spent much time dedicated to learning some of those skills because and they are very I think they're super practical important and I love being outside in the fucking woods, but
Mhm.
like I think the last time I tried building a shelter in the woods was, like, in 5th grade at, like, outdoor camp or something like that, and I
That's
do
awesome.
archery, like, once or twice a year, and I fucking love it, but I never do
Yeah.
it, and
Yeah.
I just it's so dumb, and it's, like it's something I just, like it's one of those things that I really love and appreciate, and I just haven't really spent much I don't like I'm really intrigued by fishing. I've never been much of a fisherman or an angler. My mom fucking slays, and
Hell yeah.
I am actually I think this summer after Blade Show, the plan is to go up and visit them, and I think that's when the salmon run's gonna be hitting, and I wanna
Mm.
go and I wanna learn. I wanna get better at
Yeah.
fishing, but also I don't know how to break down and I know all different fish break down in different ways, but even these
Mhm.
salmon, like, I don't know I'm not very efficient at breaking down a salmon. Like, shit like that, but it's all
Yeah.
comes back to trying, like, to understand the tools because I would like to be able to make
Exactly.
like, I can make a I feel like I can make a decent like, a very well-made knife that is considered a hunting knife or a skinning knife and stuff like that, but without that depth of experience, like we were talking about earlier, without that depth of
Mhm.
experience of how that tool is actually used, I I can't stand behind it like somebody like you who has that depth of experience and knowledge can. When it comes to chef's knives, for sure, I can stand behind that all
All
fucking
the,
day
yeah.
because I
Yeah.
know I've used that tool for a long fucking time. I know how to use a chef's knife, but when it comes to other style
Yeah.
knives, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I can make a great knife, but I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And I want to
Yeah.
understand not only because I want to understand the tool better, but I also want to have those experience and I want to have that additional knowledge. Not that I'm necessarily going to become an outdoor knife maker, but I think all those little things there's little small iterations or inspirations that you can gather from these different disciplines and incorporate into the knife work that you do specialize in, which for me is
Yeah, of
obviously
course.
culinary and especially when it comes down to breaking down animals like I would love to go and like hang out in a butcher shop for a few days just either to observe or to like
Yeah.
side by side with somebody understand like how these knives are being used so I have a better understanding of like what kind of impact are the edges of these knives like experiencing when they come into bone like they hit bone or they're breaking through bone
Oh,
or they're cutting away sinew and like silver skin and all this other shit these layers of tendons and ligaments and fat between the layers of meat like wanting to
yeah.
understand and I just don't fucking know that stuff and I'd love
But
to
that's how
make
I feel with like culinary knives. Like I don't
oh,
know jack shit about culinary knives, and like when I make a chef knife, I'm like, this is trash. So that's I feel the same way. I get
Yeah.
it, but it's just like just practice, yeah,
Yeah.
right. Just like throwing yourself into it until you feel comfortable enough with it, and as far as survival goes, I tell everybody, I'm like, you can survive. You absolutely can. It's how much willpower do you have to live? Because
Mhm.
everyone's like, I could never do that, and I'm like, you could though if you wanna live,
If
if you want to
if you
survive, like
if
you
you literally thought you were
absolutely
gonna
can.
die, hopefully you would probably
Yeah,
figure it out. That's an
yeah,
interesting
exactly.
aspect. Yeah, because
Yeah.
while you do have like the production people, like the camera and the sound and the producer guy or person, like otherwise, like I'm sure you sign away a thing that says like, if I die, this is not History Channel's fault or Discovery Channel,
Oh,
whoever the fuck. Yeah,
yeah, like a contract that's like that big.
it's
Yeah.
so fucking sick.
And they also leave you like the majority of the episodes that I've done, they'll come in at like 9, 10 in the morning and they leave at like 3 in the afternoon, 4 in the afternoon. And then like you're obviously all by yourself at night, but they're hardly even with you during the day. And especially like for my solo challenge, they weren't allowed to talk to me at all. Like they
Oh, whoa.
and I was like, this is great. I was like, this is like like free therapy for me. I'm just gonna tell you guys my whole life story and you can't say anything. So I'm just gonna tell you guys about all my traumas and like fucked up stuff I've been through. And
Sure.
yeah, yeah. Because that's like the worst part is you're just like there by yourself and in your head and with
Right.
nobody to talk to. So yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been curious about stuff like that. Um, I in my oh, what is it? In 2014, I think, or 16, I started meditation practice. And
Mhm.
it's evolved and changed a little bit here and there over the years. But it's probably one of the things I've been most consistent about other than like knife making over the years.
Yep.
And that isn't like a I have to do this kind of thing, like doing the laundry or cleaning the house or cooking meals and stuff like that. And I feel like I could see somebody when they are isolated like that, getting into kind of a different, like a shift in mindset and or like a flow state, or like you said, like whether it's conscious or unconscious, kind of like this stream of consciousness just coming out as you're out in the world, or
Yeah.
in these experiences by yourself, and just like like externally processing what's just like floating around in your head.
Yep. That's the
Yeah,
worst. It's
it's
so bad for me too. Yeah, it's the worst because like especially back home, like in my real life, I just like don't deal with stress. I'm just like, oh, it's fine. Like everything will be okay. And I'm so used to like taking care of everybody else and not myself. And there's like so many struggles and hardships that I have going on in my life that I just put on the back burner. I'm like out of sight, out of mind. And like my
Mhm,
mom has Alzheimer's right now, and that's been really hard for me because
sure.
she was like one of my best friends, and I was so close with her. And then she had a stroke, and she's not even able to talk anymore. So when I went and did
Oh,
my
fuck.
solo episode, I've just been like, I wasn't trying to think about it because when I did, it just made me so sad. And when I was out
Sure.
there, I had nothing but time. So I just sat there and that's all I could think about. And then I don't like to cry either. I'm not like an emotional person. I'm out there
Right.
fucking bawling my eyes out thinking about my mom and shit. So that stuff's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, it's not good to be. I mean, it's good and bad, right? Like,
Sure.
because you gotta deal with it, but also it's like, yeah, not good to be alone with your thoughts sometimes.
Yeah,
That's why I
well,
want
and
to
I
take
think
mushrooms and do like ayahuasca and stuff like that. So I'm like, maybe it'll help me out.
yeah. Well, and I think it does kinda, like, bring those things to the surface, and because the processing of them is important, because otherwise they'll continue to linger there versus
Yeah,
being worked through, and being able to, like, move forward from that.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, it's almost like I have this image in my head of, like, somebody, like, running a marathon or something like that, and they cross, but they're not, it's just, like, the marathon is just life, and then there are these
Yeah,
vents that occur that are like these ribbons, like, when you cross the finish line, you break the ribbon, but
yep,
until if you don't process and work through them, those things just continue to accumulate, and they continue to weigh you down, as you
yep.
continue to work through that marathon of your existence in life, and
Right.
I still got plenty of my own shit too to work through and try to figure out for sure. So I'm in the same, I'm in a
Yeah.
similar boat with you. It's tricky.
Yeah.
It's definitely tricky. I
Yeah. It's like a never ending.
When it comes to I've heard when it comes to ayahuasca, I've heard or learned a lot and about just in reading from it and listening to interviews. And was it Chelsea Hadler? I don't know if you're a big fan of Chelsea,
Yep.
but her comedy is fucking
Yeah, she's hilarious.
she's so ruthless. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And she's
I love
fucking
her.
funny. She's so good.
Yeah.
She has like a oh god, I think it was on Netflix for a little while, but she has like a mini doc series, like 3 or 4 episodes or 6 I can't remember how many, but it's
Mhm.
her going through an ayahuasca ceremony and a ayahuasca experience.
I watched it.
Oh
Yep.
god, it's so good.
I saw
It's
it.
so
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
powerful. And that was
Yeah.
actually like I've heard some other people talk about their experiences and it sounds kind of gnarly. But it's also like the purgative aspect, which is whether it's crying or puking or fucking diarrhea or whatever, like that's
Yeah.
all it, unfortunately it's just kind of part of it. But
Mhm.
the what you come out the other end with, the experience and the knowledge that you come out the other end with, sounds really incredible and full on worth it. Um, but again, that's a lot of preparation, and part of that is,
Yeah.
like I said, the mindset and being ready to like confront things. Because another thing that people say about psychedelic trips is like you don't get the trip or the experience you want, you get the experience that you need. And that's and
Yep.
I in my
So
experience
true.
is exactly 100% true. You can want
Yeah. Absolutely.
and have intentions for all kinds of things, um and you don't get a chance to talk about or experience or like express those in that experience. And but what you do get out of it um is very valuable and useful. And I think when I go into an experience, my like I said, you want to have like one, like a couple or three intentions. And I
Mhm.
always finish either I usually have a couple, and then my third one is always to stay and there again, keeping it brief, but just being open to what the medicine wants to teach me, what the experience wants to teach me,
Yeah.
whatever it might be. So being open to that and surrendering to the experience and what it hopes and what it wants to teach me or show me. And
Yeah. I love that.
sometimes it takes me in a direction that I wasn't expecting to go, but I'm glad that it did. And
Yeah. And it's what you needed at that moment of time.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like I might finally be ready and like at a point in my life where I can do something like that. Because before I've always been like fight or flight mode my entire life, and I've just never been in that good like headspace or setting to do something like that. So it
Yeah, and I
might
think
be finally time.
sure, and I think even people who have these are from interviews that I've listened to, but people who have had many experiences still approach it with a little bit of anxiety or hesitance or reverence, I guess they
Mhm.
kind of also refer to it as, because it is a serious thing that
Yeah,
you're doing. And so being serious about it in that way, I think shows um a kind of a reverence or a respect for what is to come. And I think
yeah,
that
exactly.
definitely plays a role in how that experience ultimately plays out for you. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I have a few books that I can refer to you that have been pretty
yeah,
insightful, and helpful in kind of like preparing for an experience or and what to expect and just like yeah, if you like.
yeah. I love that. I would love that. Absolutely. Yeah, I love to
Yeah,
do like a bunch of research too before I jump into something. So yeah, that'd be
yeah,
great.
yeah.
Hell yeah.
Um, so you're in Vermont now. You
Yep.
sounds like you may or may not have gone and filmed another excursion into the wild. Um, what do you got coming up for the next year, over the next 5 years, like with knife making? Obviously, you got your little guy, um, and but like, what does life in knife making look like for you in the coming years?
Yeah, so Justin and I actually opened up a shop about a year ago in town in Brattleboro. It's called Iron and Oak Forge. And so we're just honestly like just trying to work on that. And eventually, what we would like to do is turn this entire building where we're at into a school and start teaching
Oh, cool.
people. I love teaching kids, I love doing kids'
Yeah.
classes. Um, so, yeah, I mean, eventually getting to that point and yeah, I don't really like having any set plans. I kind of just like going with the flow and seeing
Yeah,
where
sure.
life takes me. But yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's what we're doing for now. Just working on like our little store, and we have like a little storefront, and this is our
Oh,
whole
no
new
shit.
shop, which is yeah,
Oh,
which is
wow.
such a nice upgrade from because I used to for the like 10 years or well probably like 8 years that I was doing knives. I was in like this little 8x10 shed behind my parents' house. So this is nice. Big
Yeah.
change
No,
for
I've
me.
I've seen some of
Yeah.
your older posts where you're like, yeah, in that tiny shed. Yeah.
Yeah, that was rough. Yeah, I got out of that in like 2020, back when COVID was going on, and then I ended up moving to Vermont, and I moved to like one tiny little shop, which is funny because it I was in this shop for a little bit, and then when I moved out, my husband, he and his brother moved in there,
Oh, really?
and it's just funny, yeah, because we just constantly passing each other in life, but
Oh,
it's just
wow.
funny we both shared the same shop with each other at one point.
Right.
Now we have this. So yeah, but yeah, that's just working on our shop and just yeah, we're trying to do like I'm trying to do things other than just knives too. Like I'm doing like coffee scoops and ladles
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah, I
yeah,
did see that on your Instagram.
yeah, just experimenting with different stuff. I feel like I've never been in a good place where I can actually um, expand and like
Sure.
grow and learn more. I'm usually just like there's always something crazy going on in my life where I just I can't I have to like just pump out certain things. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I can't really like learn and grow and like try to do new things. I'm
That's
always just
hard.
like set in this one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's hard. Well, and I think that part of that difficulty of having that time comes from doing it as a business. Um, and at least for me, I struggle with finding that time to do kind of like that unpaid exploratory kind of experimental work because at the same time, I still gotta fucking pay bills. And
Exactly.
sometimes oftentimes actually, I'm not as productive as I would like to be. And honestly, like whatever Instagram it looks like through Instagram or whatever, I'm honestly still kind of going like month to month or things come in waves and
Yeah.
they're like there are some months where there's not a lot coming in because of like
Mhm.
the workflow and
Yeah.
so figuring out how to have that consistent source income
Hmm.
really helps. But also, like, I've had and I still am not very good about doing this, but building in that time, because otherwise I'll just never fucking do it. That experimental time, that exploratory time,
Yeah.
and
Same.
I'll just never do it if I don't build it in, and so build it in, but then at the same time, I'm like, "Okay, I still have bill-paying priorities." I'm like, I
Yeah.
wanna do this other thing, but I really gotta finish this shit up and get it out the door,
Yep.
otherwise, it's gonna be hard to pay
And
those
that's
bills tonight.
yeah. Yep, that's exactly how I feel. I'm like, man, I really want to learn how to do like XYZ, but I have these bills I have to, so I got to stick
Yeah,
with what I know for now. And yeah, so it's
yeah,
hard. I definitely get that. Yep.
for sure.
So
That's
yeah,
cool
I mean,
though.
hopefully I can just like learn and grow more. I'd love to like learn more things and
Yeah.
yeah.
No, and I think as a creative, obviously you're a creative and talented person. It's really important to have those times, but yeah, finding them are really difficult. And nowadays, like when I'm hanging out with my kid, like he was sick as shit like the last couple days. And so
Oh, sorry.
on Wednesday, I was hanging out with him and part of Thursday. And when he's like just hanging out and drawing at home, like that, I sat down and I drew with him. And I was just
Yeah,
like,
the
I
best.
had this idea for a Damascus design, and I was like, I'm gonna finally draw." It's just been floating in my head for like the last couple weeks. I'm like, I'm
Yep.
gonna sit down and actually draw this out. And I spent like 4 hours drawing and reiterating and erasing a bunch of shit because I was drawing it wrong and stuff. But I took the time to do that, and I kind of forced myself because otherwise it would have been obviously super easy to be like, I'm gonna take a nap, or I'm gonna make some coffee and scroll through Instagram, or I'm gonna do, XYZ. Not necessarily unproductive. Maybe you can call it self-care, but at the same time, like it's for me, I struggle to take those opportunities that are available to do some of that stuff that would otherwise be costing me money if I'm in the shop,
Yep.
sitting there and
Yeah,
drawing. I'm not necessarily making money. I'm being somewhat productive, but it's not going towards paying bills right now. And that's where I'm
exactly.
at, is like paying bills. That's my focus, is like, but
Same.
long term, I really want to get to the place where, yeah, things are a little bit more comfortable, so I'm not just like always feel like I'm under pressure, like under the thumb, or under the
Yep.
gun. And
Yeah, I
but I really
totally
like
get
that
that.
idea that you guys are going to be offering classes in a class space there. I think that would be super cool. I would
Hell
actually,
yeah. Yeah, that's the goal,
I want to come
hopefully.
when you get it going. I want to come teach a class.
Dude, Justin's always like, you got to see if Mareka will come up and teach a class. And I'm
Fuck
like, hell
yeah, I
yeah.
will. Fuck yeah,
Yeah,
I
that'd be
will.
awesome.
I would love
Yeah.
to.
Fuck yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, you can teach me first.
Yeah, we could hang out. We can do some work
Hell
together. I can teach
yeah.
a class. We can double up. Yeah, it'd be good.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I know. I feel like the only time we really got to forge together was you're strong, and it was at like 2 in the morning. You guys were just
Oh
going
my god,
hard, like forging all night. Yeah, and like
that was one
me,
of those
Neil, and
moments
Laura
where,
were like, yeah, we're gonna take a nap now. Just like passed out on the hay barrels.
yeah,
You guys were just going strong.
that was one of those nights, just drinking too much, and one of the few nights of the year, I'm just like, I was so haggard the next day. It was rough.
Oh, same. That was fun though. I
Yeah.
love Winter Strong. It was a good time. Are you going this? It's coming up soon, right? A couple weeks.
Yeah, it's coming up in February, beginning of February. So actually this episode will be coming out about the same time, publicly facing, I guess, at the
Yeah.
same time. So yeah, I think right now the plan is to get out there. I'm trying to piggyback the trip with a class possibly in addition, because just like traveling from the Pacific Northwest all the way down to South Carolina, it's like, fuck, you gotta
It's a lot.
go that
Yeah.
far. I mean, I might as well like make the travel cost worth it. So,
Yeah.
um, doing the event is super fun and very personally fulfilling and enriching, but I gotta also figure out a way somehow to kind of like make it also kind of pay for itself, to kind
Yeah.
of justify it right now. I would love to someday be able to just take trips and not have to take that in consideration. But right now, everything I do is usually has to justify itself in some way monetarily, so that
Yep.
basically, so it's not lost time in the shop.
Yeah, exactly. I get that. Trust me. Yep.
Yeah,
Time is money.
for sure.
Yep.
Do you
I
guys
absolutely get that.
So you got a storefront. That's super cool. So you got the knives in there. You have the other, like the scoops you were talking about, and what other kind of stuff are you guys doing in there? Are you going to be doing like cutting boards or wooden spoons or sharpening?
Yeah, we do all of that stuff. Yep, sharpening. I actually started making jewelry too, just for fun. Like, because I
Yeah,
was trying to think like, what's something that when women come in here and they don't want to look at the knives, like what's something that they might be
right.
interested in. So yeah, I started making jewelry. We're right by the train tracks, so I'll take like old pennies. I actually have a couple of them right here. I'll put them
Oh,
on
nice.
the train tracks, and
Smash
then
'em.
yeah, don't tell anybody that. That's illegal.
Is it? I don't know. I find
So,
pennies
yeah.
by the train track all the time.
Yeah, so that's what I was finding them by the track. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll turn them into earrings and stuff. So yeah, just trying different things like that. I like a lot of home decor things. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I
different
think that.
stuff. I have a couple of really exciting things in the works with CRKT right now too.
Oh yeah, I
So
was
I've
gonna
been
ask you about, because I've seen some You've done some collaboration work with them in the past. Yeah. So what do you got coming up?
yeah. Yeah, so I have a new knife design coming out. It should be out I think in 2026. So
Oh
next
shit.
yeah,
Okay.
next year. Yeah, yeah. But yeah,
So
but I
that's
had
a really cool thing.
yeah, so when I first started doing knife reviews on YouTube, they were actually one of the first companies that ever reached out to me, and they were like, "Hey, we love your videos. If we send you some stuff, would you like to do some reviews?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah," because I actually was a big fan of like Alan Foltz has been a huge mentor to me, but like yeah,
Okay.
Lucas Burnley, like yeah, Ken Onion, all of those guys. So
Right.
I started doing reviews for them, and then I started making knives. I was like, my goal, like my number one goal is I want to get a knife in with them someday. Like that would be huge.
Hell
And
yeah.
so, yeah, I just like I never felt confident enough to be like, hey, like this is I want you guys to do, a design of mine. And then finally, like I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, I was at SHOT Show and I ended up having a meeting with them. I finally felt somewhat comfortable to show them some of my designs, and they loved it.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I ended up doing a knife with them. So yeah, that's my Bugsy.
Bugsy. It's a cool knife. It's a good
Thank
design. I
you.
like it.
Hell yeah, I thought it'd be a good like outdoor and bushcraft knife.
Yeah, tell me about
So
it. So, okay, yeah. So tell me about the design and why different features and shapes and all that kind of stuff.
yeah, so it's super comfortable in your hand. So the ergonomics of the handle, very comfortable. I wish that I had made the handle a little bit longer. The problem is I have such tiny hands, so every time I design something, I have to add a couple extra inches. Keep that in
Okay.
mind, but
Sure.
yeah, and then yeah, hollow ground, so super sharp. It's the blade shape is very ergonomical as well. It's great for penetrating stuff. It's great for whittling, doing traps. Also, if you want to do like cooking, it's a good chef
Oh yeah.
style knife.
Yeah,
So you
yeah,
can
yeah.
use it
I
for
can see that being
cooking.
useful in at camp for cutting stuff
Yeah,
up.
right. For like, yeah, cutting some meat up, or it's also good for like skinning animals and stuff. So you can use it for field dressing. And then it's got, some jimping on there, micarta handles. So if
Right.
you get it wet or slippery, you still have a really good grip.
You
But
still hell
yeah,
yeah.
that's just the gist of it. But yeah, it's a good little overall bushcraft knife.
Yeah. No, it's a good
Yeah.
little knife. That's a good design. I like it. It's
Thanks.
clean,
Appreciate
simple.
it. Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's clean and it's I hate saying simple because people perceive simple as um like not interesting, but I think it's actually
Yeah.
very tricky to make something that's very functional and clean and practical and still maintain a level of simplicity. In mathematics, there's this I don't even know the term for it, and if Mike's still in here, he could probably jump in because he's a fucking uh science nerd in all the best ways, Mike. But
Yeah.
um, essentially, the simplest solution is always the best solution. You can there are like tons of ways that you can do roundabout mathematics and have all these sheets and all these boards full of numbers and shit like that. And
Yep.
but the simplest solution is always considered the best and proper solution. Um,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
a lot of people
Yep.
wanna overcomplicate things. They wanna add all these different design styles, and so like, from I've been fucking around, honestly, with some design styles, and especially my handle shapes and stuff, and that's for my own like, it's me fitting in kind of like that exploratory work and experimental
Hmm.
work into the work that I'm also gonna be selling. I'm just, like,
Yeah,
still, like,
exactly.
crossing my fingers. I'm like, "Oh my god, I hope somebody wants to buy this because I would hate that I just
Yeah.
basically fucked up this knife and now nobody wants to buy it." But,
No, no. Yeah.
so but at the same time, like, I am trying to keep things kind of, like, on the simpler side, and I think it sounds kinda silly because when you see the patterns that I make, like, it looks really complex and, like, a lot's going on, but at the same time, it is actually very simple. It's just basically it's well-forged blade and bolster attached to a block of handle material, and that's kind of fucking it at the base
Yeah.
element. And that, like, for me, it's all about making a tool first. Whatever I'm making it not only a tool, but performs as best as that tool possibly can, and then make it pretty afterwards. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
but
Yeah.
there are a lot of people that are out there who are beautify the knives for beautifying sake and not
Mhm.
necessarily making a tool. So it's kinda like I
Yeah.
don't know. So I
Yeah.
like clean. I'm actually a lot more attracted to clean and simple because I can see, like, the thoughtfulness that goes into the design and that there's a lot of purposefulness in a well-designed knife that doesn't need a lot of the bells and whistles or extra glitz and glam to make it a quality
Because
thing.
that's all it is. It's like glitz and glam. It's not. I have a lot of people that are like, "Oh, your knives are just like something that you would hang on the wall." And I'm like, really, like, I don't see that at all. Like, I think that they're made for function.
Sure.
They're not, I don't think they're like beautiful, pretty knives that you'd want to hang on the wall. I feel like it's something that you're like, hey, I feel comfortable taking that out in the woods with me.
Right.
So yeah, I try to keep it as simple as possible. But I would love to be able to do the glitz and glam style knives someday too, just
Yeah, for sure.
to learn and practice. But yeah, keeping it simple is the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, it it should be a high performing thing at its most base form, and then you can go from there. And that's when it gets into kind of like more of the artistry. And I don't have a problem with people doing some of the, like the fancier embellishments and stuff like that. That's again, I'm right there with you. That's stuff I would love to
Yeah.
learn. Um, I think my issue is when people start with the fancy or with the embellishments, and then the thing as a tool is an afterthought.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah.
and
And
so,
that should be
and
first and foremost.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then yeah, I mean, and I guess maybe that also, I'm like, I feel like I'm like, oh shit, am I like poo pooing too hard on people? But I think it's
No,
just a
not at
different
all.
genre. It's like
Yes.
it becomes more art at that point rather than an actual tool, where I'm making an
Yeah.
artfully, I guess, an artfully crafted tool.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's some people like, is it Kyle Royer that does? Have
Oh,
you ever
sure.
seen his work?
Yeah.
Dude, incredible. Like he does videos and I'm like, I can't even wrap my mind around that. Like it's
Right.
amazing. And that is like that's art. Like it's absolutely beautiful work. I'd love to be able to do stuff like that someday. But yeah, so they're both amazing. But
Yeah.
yeah, I like to do functioning, like yeah, knives that you can beat the shit out of.
Yeah, no, and there's tons of that stuff that I still don't know. Like, I would love to. I've never made a folder. I've never done any like inlay or engraving work. I've kind of done a little bit of carving, but not really. Um,
Yeah.
Especially not on a finished piece. Um, so I don't
You
know.
should go down and see Alan someday and take a folding class with him. He's the one who taught me how to do folders and he does an amazing job.
Alan Newberry,
Alan Foltz.
Schultz,
He Foltz.
Foltz. Sorry,
Folts. Yeah,
sorry, Alan.
he did the CRKT minimalist.
Okay.
You know that knife, like the little
Oh
neck
no.
knife?
Hmm.
I think I have one around here
I'd have to look it
somewhere.
up.
Yeah, so he does, but he's in Florida and
Okay.
he does like knife classes and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, you should go down and take a class with him sometime. Folder's a whole different game. That's
Yeah, it
just
is.
crazy.
Totally different.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
part
it
of me
really
worries is
is.
like it's gonna be such a removal from what I already do that I mean, there's a little bit of fear there, but it's really just like trying to figure out if it makes right now if it makes sense. And I think right now, unfortunately, I'm just not in the place where it makes sense for me to go so far outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah,
Right
yeah, I
now,
totally
my
get
comfort
that.
zone, like safely going outside my comfort zone, is like making a hunting knife or a Skinner or a Bowie
Yeah,
knife or something like. And I've made a few of those, but I really would love to like go out into the field with somebody who really knows how to use those tools and like, gain that deeper understanding of the thing, so that when I'm making them, I really know why that has this kind of curve on the blade, or why the point comes down
yeah,
this far, all that kind of shit.
yeah, exactly. Well, when you come to Vermont to teach a class, I'll do all that stuff. We'll go out. We'll do some survival stuff.
We'll go break down a deer. Yeah, do some survival stuff
Yeah, right. Oh yeah.
for sure. Right
Oh
on. Well,
yeah.
I feel like so you got your CRKT stuff. Do you have other collaborations that you've done or that you have coming up?
Trying to think. I mean, I did collaborations with Pull Force. We did like my K-pop design. They took that, made it into a neck knife, which was cool because then I got to go out to Italy and Germany,
Oh
and I got
shit.
to check out like Lion Steel's facility. That was super cool.
Whoa.
Um,
That sounds fun.
yeah, that was really fun. Hell yeah. Yeah, I did a folder with Daryl Ralph. He passed away, but
Mm.
yeah, I did a folder with them. Trying to think what else. Yeah, I mean, I've done some cool stuff too. With like the Boston Bruins. They
Oh
gave me
wow.
their they're old skate blades, and they asked me to turn those into knives. So I did that. Yeah, I'm trying to think like what else, but yeah, just stuff like that.
That's cool.
My more fun projects,
Sure.
doing the skate blades. I love repurposing stuff. So like I do a lot of stuff with like farrier rasp or lawnmower blades or railroad ties, especially since we're right next to the train tracks.
Right.
I know they make shit knives, but they're super fun to do things with.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm actually a little scared to say this out loud because I love repurposing stuff too, but I'm scared to share this idea because I'm afraid somebody's gonna take it and run with it. Although I don't have to be the only person to do it. But we have tons of we got a few different like railroad museums and they have tons of old track. And the old track
yep,
isn't very like once they do their displays and stuff, they're not really much useful outside of that. I'm like,
yeah.
dude, that's plenty of great steel. Like I see hammerheads. I could like
Oh hell yeah.
cut away the flange, cut away the base. You have that large stock. That's a perfect starting stock for hammerheads and fucking making railroad track
Uh,
hammers. I wanna
that's
start
a
fucking around with
great
this.
idea. Yeah, you totally should. People would be super into that.
I mean,
Hell
I'm
yeah.
not I'm not in any position to start doing that anytime soon. I have some of the gear, but that honestly, like, I have all these ideas, but then I'm like, I don't I'm not gonna become a hammer
Yeah.
maker. Like, that's a great
Isn't
idea
it
for somebody
the
who's I have so many
yeah,
fucking ideas that I'm just like, honestly, like, if I just make chef's knives and am very, like, disciplined and stay on a schedule and do it, like, I'd be
yeah.
fucking great. But instead, my fucking brain has me, like, getting pulled in, like, 5 different directions all the time, and
Same, yep.
I struggle with discipline and and so, uh, God, I'm just
I'm the
sometimes
same
feel
way.
like
So
such a
bad.
waste
My
of precious
ADD
shit.
is fucking terrible. Yep,
Yeah.
same. Yeah. I'm like, oh, but I really want to do this and I really want to do that. When I first started out, I remember, I think Alan's the one who told me it. He was like, you really need to just focus on like one thing and get really good at that. And I was like, but I don't want to. Like,
Right.
I want to learn everything. Like, because I started out doing stock removal,
Sure.
and it's funny because people shit on stock removal, but I think
I don't.
that's a lot of work.
I
Yeah,
tell
yeah,
people to
right,
start in stock removal all the fucking time. I've said it even
right,
in my
yeah,
Patreon. I've been like, "If you're gonna start making knives, start with stock removal because
yeah,
the
absolutely.
grinding and all that stuff is way more important than whether or not you forge the fucking thing."
Yeah, right, dude. And fucking using an angle grinder and cutting that all out, and like it's time consuming for sure.
Yeah.
So the only thing that I have an issue with people is if they buy a blank knife that is already ground and like it's good to go, and then you're putting handles on it, and you're saying that you made a knife. No, you fucking didn't. No, you did not. Like that's what I have a problem with. But when you like stock removal, it's no different than people that are getting like their knives CNC'd and then you're grinding it and doing, heat treating and putting the hand. It's still a super ton of work. So, but yeah, I started
Yeah,
off doing stock removal,
I did too.
and then hell yeah, right? Yeah, and I feel like you learn so much that way too. So yeah, started off doing stock removal, then I taught myself how to forge, and then I started doing folders and stuff too. I've done folders, and that's a ton of work. So I was like, I don't know if I really want to do that full time, but yeah. So I never really wanted to like box myself into just one thing. Like
Sure.
I want to be like a little bit good at everything.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
that could be my ADD too. So maybe I need to be fucking medicated so I can just pick like one thing and focus on
Ye
it.
yeah. No, yeah, I
It's
think
hard.
yeah, it is hard. And I will say I was, assessed for ADHD and I now have a Adderall prescription that does help. I try not to take it all the time because I'm not really big into prescriptions. But I do know one of the things I like about the prescription is that it's not a thing that you have to like the SSRIs. You don't have to trial it for like you can start it and stop it the next fucking day. Or you can do it for a
Yeah.
year and stop it cold turkey, like, if you want. Like,
Yeah,
it's
you're
all up to
good.
you. And so I use it as, as sparingly as I need as I can, but there are definitely
Hmm.
days where, like, I can tell the difference, like, in the morning versus other days when I'm on, and I just need, like, a cup of coffee, I'm good. But there are other
Yeah.
days where I'm just like, I can't even put my fucking shoes on the right feet, and I'm like, "Okay, I think I need to
I should
I need
take
a
this
little
today.
assistance
Yeah.
today." So, but yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah, I feel like 10 years ago, my friend was like, I'm pretty sure you have fucking DD and you should be on like Adderall or something. And they had a prescription for it and they were like, yeah, you should just try it. And I did. And I was like an absolute zombie. I just like nothing.
Sure.
You know, I feel like my creative spark went away. So I was like, I don't think that's good for me.
Yeah,
Guess I'll just be spraying for now.
yeah, and it definitely comes in a lot of different, dosages, and I've found that as little as possible helps me the most, and if it's somebody that has been, taking Adderall for a long time, then they probably have a higher dose, and I don't know what a
Yeah.
higher dose does. I know I started out trialing with, like, 30 milligrams, and that was way too much. Like, I felt like I had drank, like,
Yeah.
5 double shot espressos. I was like,
Oh,
"I
yeah, I don't like
don't
that.
like." I felt so fucking wired, and
No.
because technically it is like a type of amphetamine, and I was like, "I
Yeah.
don't like this feeling
Yeah.
at all." So I cut it way down. So I'll take a 10 milligram in the morning, which is not a lot, and most
Yeah.
days, like, that's when I need it the most, is usually the start of the day or when I'm gonna be doing a lot of talking like today, but outside of that,
Yeah.
I hardly ever take it. Just
Yeah, it's good.
it's a tiny little thing to help every once in a while, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Sometimes
But I'm
I just
also
need
trying
it.
to, like,
It's good.
address just, like, my own issues with, organization and and self-motivation and stuff like that. So, because I don't wanna become reliant on it. I wanna be able to do it. It is helpful to have every once in a while, but I do wanna be able to do my own shit on my own without
Yeah.
necessarily needing the assistance of prescriptions to get there. Um
Yeah, exactly.
but yeah, I do think they have a place, and I wanted to say about the sharpening that you guys are offering. I don't know how that's going, but I know I offer a sharpening service, and it's especially this time of year, and it's like crazy. Like
Crazy.
6 hours of sharpening translates into like $1,000 for me, and
Yeah,
like
that's wild.
people like I think some makers think that it's like they're not necessarily selling out, but that like they're too good for knife sharpening. Like, oh, they're not.
Really? That's funny.
Yeah, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
"Motherfucker, I'll sharpen knives
Yeah,
all
not
day."
me. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't like it. I don't
Yeah.
enjoy it, but I will like, it definitely pays if you want it to, and if you get set up in a
Yeah.
place, in a space, and you have, like, a consistent basis in which either you're picking up or you have oh, shit, a place where people can come to, like, to your shop and they can drop off, like, that helps in a big way, and I like, even just this month alone, I've done a couple $1,000 in knife sharpening for, like,
Hell
12
yeah,
hours
that's
of work,
awesome.
right?
Yeah, I
And
feel like going to like farmers markets or things like that would be amazing. Yeah,
yeah,
just
and that
set up like a yeah.
that's what I did in my local area because I was only planning on offering the sharpening service locally. I was like, "All right, I gotta find a local farmer's market, pop up there, do the sharpening."
Hell yeah.
I did that for a season, which was like 5 months or something like that, 6 months, and it was just
Yep.
I only did it like once, sometimes twice a month, but people knew I was gonna be there, and it
Oh
kind of
yeah.
developed. What you're doing is you're training people. When you do something like that, you're training people, and then they know you develop that consistency with them, and then I started doing a pickup drop off situation at a kitchen store that is literally like 10 feet away from that park. So instead of finding me at
Oh,
the farmer's
perfect.
market where they did the park where they did the farmer's market, they now just go into the kitchen store and they drop off there. And then I come at my leisure, I come and pick up the knives, sharpen them, and then I bring them back.
Yeah.
And that's
That's
it.
brilliant. Yeah, I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what do you so I want to do more like farmers markets or just things like that where I can bring a grinder, but I don't want to be like carrying around my 2x72.
No,
So
Justin
like
would be carrying around the 2x72.
yeah, yeah.
That was the hardest part. It's like I had to bring my grinders to I have this like I wish I actually didn't have this plinth because the plinth was kind of heavy. It's made out of like MDF and it's full of sand, so it's like a solid base. And honestly, like a square tube base would be more ideal because it would be like 10 pounds, maybe.
Yep.
And I can slap the grind, and I was bolting, like unbolting and bolting the grinder to that plinth base anyways. So I'm like, fuck, you just slap some bolts on the thing. And but moving the grinder, it's so awkward because the chassis, their chassis are just,
Yeah.
even with the tool arm off, it's still fucking awkward and heavy. So
Yeah.
that's the least ideal. The
So
most ideal
heavy.
situation would be to have have a pickup
Yep.
and have a stand like that you keep in the shop that's the same height as the bed. And so you
Yep.
basically slide it off the stand onto the bed of the truck, into the bed
Yeah.
of the truck, and then you do the same thing taking it off. So you're doing very
Yep.
little lifting, or even setting it up so you just grind and sharpen off the back, off the tailgate, which I've done. I
There you
sharpen
go.
off the
Yeah.
tailgate, have the pop-up tent right over the back of the truck, and that way you just
Yep.
slide it right back in the truck when you're done. But then you have to have a situation where you can have basically you. And I feel like I've seen farmers markets where people have their shit, like their produce and a table under a tent coming off the back of the truck. You should be able to do the same thing with your sharpening situation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or
And
even
that
like
would
getting like
honestly be
what?
the
Like
best way
a
to do it.
yeah, exactly. What about like getting a shitty like what is it? Not a 1 by 72. Was it a 1 by 72?
The 1 by 30s?
I had like a 1 by 30. Yes, when I first started knife making, that's I bought like the shitty little 1 by 30 grinder at Harbor Freight, and I was
Yeah.
like, anytime I'd press to do my bevels, the motor would seize up.
Bogs down. Yeah, yeah. It's like, oh
Yeah,
God, what are you doing to me?
yeah, exactly. Too much, too much. But I wonder if that would be good for sharpening. Because you're
I've
just like,
seen,
right?
well, one, it would need to be something that had, I think it needs a little bit more torque. What would
Yeah.
be ideal is if it was variable speed. That way
Mhm.
you could slow things down, because some of those, like what is it? I used to, I either had one. Fuck, I think I did have one, and it was just like it was going too fucking fast.
Yeah.
It was like
Yeah.
and I think that's honestly the mistake that a lot of uh quote unquote professional sharpeners are doing, is that because blah, blah, blah. They're using machines that are spinning too fast, and it's gonna
Yep.
burn up the steel. And it's hard to not,
Yeah.
honestly, whether it's a bench grinder, whether it's a little grinder like that, or whether it's whatever. Like, if you got to be able to dial it back. And when I do my sharpening, I have it running at like 20-25%, but never higher
Yep.
than that. So I have it
Yeah.
dialed way down. and and what's also nice is that I have that long wide platen to work from, for
Hmm.
sharpening. So yeah. Eh, I'm trying to
Yeah, that's
think.
the way to do it.
There's a company called Origin Blade Maker. Origin, I think it's Origin. I'd have to look it up. Um, but they have, oh shit, I just closed that window. They have a little like variable speed grinding setup that, if I were to invest into an actual like mobile sharpening setup, I would probably get that thing, because it can go
Hell
vertical
yeah.
or dialed back to an angle. Let's see, Origin. Let's see, spell it
Keep
right.
talking. I'm just running over here for stuff.
Yeah, you're good. Blade Maker. Origin Blade Maker. I'll try to pull this up, and they actually have a sharpening setup, um, with like a tool rest and all this shit, and you can adjust the angle and everything.
Hell yeah.
Curious. And it looks pretty slick. And it's like super like like mobile. Like it probably weighs maybe 25 pounds, maybe 30 at the most. And
Oh,
that's going to be a
that would
lot
be
easier to
perfect.
move around. I'm like sliding through their page right now. Where's that
You're
fucking
fine. Keep
machine?
talking. I'm gonna
Um,
pee. I'm just gonna pee in this cup right here.
you don't have to do that.
I'm just going around. No, it's fine. I do. I literally do it all the time. Just
Okay, you should mute your headset real quick.
oh,
People
what
gonna
was that mic do? Oh, can they hear me?
probably. It'd be like Naked Gun when he goes to the bathroom with the microphone on.
Yeah, ready? Okay, I'm gonna take these out. 1 second.
Okay. All right. So, um, Actually, I just realized I'm gonna actually pop her out. Oh no, I can mute her from this side. All right, she's muted now. Okay, so I'm scrolling through. So yeah, Origin Blade Maker, they make this little oh fuck, why isn't it? I don't know why it's so difficult to find, but anyways, they make this tiny little grinder. I'm gonna find it and I'm gonna show you guys. Oh wait, shit, is that no, that's a tool arm. If what's funny is I'm on their website and I'm having a really hard time finding it, and I guarantee I could find it in about 2 seconds on their Instagram. Oh shit, there it is. Yeah, it was on the last page. Oh my god. I will say this is so it says that it's 1,000. Let's see. It says it's like $1,200 machine. But let's see. I'm gonna pull up the screen share. It's a 2x48. Um and And it I think it can run off of one. I'm sure you can set it up, the variable speed, so it runs off of a 120. I will say that, um,
Okay, I'm back.
I muted you from this side. I forgot I can do that. So I muted you from this side. So this is the little thing. So it's a 2x48 belt grinder. It's, basically $1,200.
Oh, hell
And so
yeah.
you can run it vertical, or it's also got an angle set up here. Let me pop through these slides. So you can and that's the tracking setup. And so you can run it
Oh, yeah.
fully horizontal. Oops, sorry. And anywhere in between. So you can set up an angle, you have an angle, you can set up an angle guide.
Yeah, that's
Um
perfect.
and I mean, but like I said, it is a $1,200 machine. But if I were to do more mobile sharpening, I 100% would be getting one of these.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
yeah, it's just so simple and straightforward, and you can, oh, yeah, I just realized that's the tension arm for adjusting the tension. Oh, Jesus. That's poking out of the top, and changing the belts out. But anyways, yeah, something like that. Again, it's probably, the weight of the motor alone is probably about 15, maybe 20 pounds, and then the rest of that's
Yeah.
probably another 10 or 12. So, yeah, it's probably around 30, 35 pounds maybe at the most. But then you're also lugging around the fucking variable speed thing.
Yep.
So it's I think it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. What you want to do. Obviously, there's the Trident that Neil Kamimura does with a mirror braid, which is also a 2
Yeah.
by 48. And that has a fixed stand, but I don't think it necessarily has to be okay, kind of like attached to that. Um, but I do think that it has more body to it, and it possibly weighs more. I'm not quite sure actually. I've never tried lifting it
Yeah.
up. Next time I'm at Neil's, I'll have to try it, or at a show with Mary Braid. I'm like, take the fucking bolts off that thing. I wanna lift it. How heavy is this fucking
Yeah,
thing?
I gotta see how heavy it is. Dude, I
It's
can't
just like,
even tell you how many times I've had like lift and move my grinders on my own and like throw them in the backseat of my car
oh
to
yeah,
move. Yeah, so
yeah. It's not
yeah,
fun.
a little grinder would be great. No,
A
it
little
sucks.
grind,
It's the
yeah.
worst.
2 by 48 would be great. I've also, what is it? Uh, I've seen there's like this grinding attachment for that farriers that you can find at like farrier supply stores. That would actually be probably pretty damn good for sharpening. The problem is that you cannot dial back the speed. So you're going like fucking full tilt boogie on that thing. And that's
Full
that's
tilt
another
boogie.
great another great opportunity to burn up the blades. And
Yeah,
I actually think a, a lot of communities would benefit from more knife makers being the actual knife sharpeners in their local communities, because we have a
yeah,
deeper understanding, or better, at least a better understanding, I think, of the metallurgy and everything that's involved with the sharpening, and not burning up the steel, and all that
yeah,
shit. Because the sharpeners that operate in my area, they don't fucking know. I know they don't know this shit.
yeah,
There's like old
yeah,
school
exactly.
against the bench grinder, fucking tearing up the edge, sharpening the knife at
Oh,
like fucking 36 or 40 grit, and they're like, "There you
uh,
go." And it like you don't see the color, and it's honestly, it's easy to like hide that. If somebody knows what they're
yeah,
doing, they can clean that back
yeah,
off.
exactly.
They accidentally burn up the edge. And it's like, cool, it's sharp for now. But when I
Yeah,
start
for
using it
now.
10 seconds later, it's all of a sudden going to be dull because you burned up the heat treat and then the blaze fucked up. I think that's
Yeah,
a
exactly.
I think that's it's cool that you're offering that, and I urge I've been talking to people since like COVID. When COVID first hit, people were like, "Oh, what are we gonna do? Can't go to shows. How are we gonna sell our knives?" I'm like, "Fucking start sharpening knives." I'm sharpening
Yeah,
knives,
absolutely. Yeah.
and like
And
I said,
it's enough for everybody. You know what I mean? Like you're not
for
stepping on
sure.
anybody's toes. Like,
No.
yeah, how many sharpeners are in your area? Probably not a lot.
Yeah,
I don't know any. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Even I live in a capital city, and it's a fucking small capital city. There we have like maybe 120,000 people in this area.
Yep.
And even if I get 1% of those people a year, that's
Yep.
plenty. Like,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
plenty, plenty, plenty,
Yep.
plenty.
Yeah, we're good. No, I think
Yeah.
that's brilliant. More people should do it. Hell yeah.
But is it
It's
yeah.
fucking storming like crazy
Oh,
outside right
is it?
now. Yeah, take a look at this.
Oh, we're gonna take a tour.
Come with me.
Come with
This
me
is
while
like
I
our
see.
little storefront right now. We just got done doing a show over the
Oh, nice.
weekend, so we don't have like a lot of
Oh, yeah,
stuff
yeah,
in
sure.
stock, but we got like yeah. All right, sorry. I just gotta show you
Sure.
in case you're missing the New England weather.
I told you, so
Oh,
I liked it. What was great about it is that, like, your guys' infrastructure is set up because you're expecting the fucking snow.
I
Here
hate
in
it.
Washington, when it snows, it's like everybody's surprised all of a sudden that it snowed, and then they're like,
Hate
"Oh,
it.
I don't know what to do about it. We'll plow, like, in a couple spots where it might be dangerous, but otherwise, we're not gonna do anything." And then it rains, and then it freezes, or it freezing rains on top of the compacted snow, and it becomes so fucked
Yeah.
up here. It's stupid.
Ah, that
I loved it
sucks.
actually,
Yeah.
because in Connecticut, like, they were on top of it, like 3 o'clock in the morning, the plows are cruising through, and it was sometimes loud and annoying, but, like, I could confidently drive 35 minutes down the road on the highway without any concerns.
Yeah. I'm just not built for the cold anymore. Like,
Sure.
I just don't like. I like being in the t-shirt, and yeah, I just hate this. It
Or
sucks.
nothing. It sounds like you like being in
Yeah, or
nothing.
nothing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's totally fair.
No.
I actually, as I get older, oh Jesus, just slapped the microphone. Sorry, Mike. I'm very abusive to Michael phone. Um, I feel like my tolerance for cold goes down for sure. Although I
Right?
will
Just like
still say,
hurts in your bones.
yeah, I will say, well, actually, it's humidity that I don't actually have a problem with heat, because I was about to say I prefer the cold over the heat. But actually, like the dry heat, I'm perfectly fine with. I have no problem
Yeah.
with dry heat. Um,
Yeah.
Humid heat can get fucked.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
The dry
Yeah. I
cold,
don't like
I
the.
love I love the dry cold. I'm totally fine with dry cold. The humid cold, like here in
Yep.
Washington, when I was in Connecticut, I was talking to Jamie because it was like 20 degrees or something like that. And I was like, "Man, it's cold, but I feel like days like this would be way colder in Washington." He's like, "But doesn't it?" Jamie was like, "Doesn't it get colder here?" And I was like, "Well, technically, like degree-wise it is, but the cold in Washington is like a humid cold, and it feels like somebody dropped your ass in a lake and then pulled you back out and put you in the shop and said, 'Go to work, fucker.'" And
Yeah.
so you feel
Exactly.
like chilled to the fucking bone. It is
Yep.
gnarly.
Yeah,
And
I hate that. And when my shop was back in that shitty ass shed, like there was no insulation in there.
can't even
So
imagine.
I was freezing my ass off. Yeah, it was so bad. And like my dip bucket would freeze. So I'd have to like turn the forge on, heat up a bunch because like it was so small that everyone's like, why don't you just keep the forge on to heat up your shop? It was so small. Like there was no room in my forge. I would have killed myself.
Right, it
So like
would
I
have
would have
eaten
to
up all
bring
the
my forge.
oxygen.
Yeah, exactly. I would have died. So, yeah, I used to like heat up railroad spikes or whatever, and I'd like dip it in my bucket, and I'd have to. It was just terrible. I hate it. I hate the cold. It
Yeah,
sucks. Not for me. Yeah.
no, no, no.
Yeah. Someday we'll move. We're talking about like going to Texas or I don't know
Texas is cool.
anywhere,
Texas
right?
could be
I do
cool.
love New England though, but it's just yeah. You know what gets me more than anything? It's not even like the cold sucks. absolutely. But the sun is never out here,
Mm,
ever.
yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. It's
It's
like,
important to have some sun in your life for sure.
yeah, need some vitamin D. I'm lacking
Vitamin
it.
D is a real thing.
Yeah,
I think there's also
exactly.
vitamin K is also produced in your skin when it's exposed
Yeah,
to the sun rays. Yeah, super important.
yeah,
Washington's
yep,
similar in that way, where we have a lot of overcast days, but we do have some beautiful sunny days. When it is sunny, it's fucking gorgeous. Um, but yeah, somewhere like Denver, or other parts of Colorado, obviously down like Texas, Arizona,
yeah,
uh, New Mexico, California.
yep,
Definitely
yeah,
some sunnier days there,
yeah,
but then
yep.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
could
see, Colorado's amazing because it's like, yeah, it's cold there and they have winter and stuff, but the sun's out, what, like 300 days out of the year?
yeah, dude, it's a crazy amount of time. Like
Yeah. And I'm
basically
like,
every day
yeah,
is a
sign me
sunny
up.
day. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you can't be mad when it's sunny outside.
Yeah.
Like, did you notice that everyone in New England's like fucking pissed off all the time? I think people here are so, like, everyone's just so grumpy all the time. And I'm like, why is everyone so mean? I think it's because they're just cold.
It's just
Just
fucking
cold and
cold.
they're
Way
cold and
more.
they're lacking vitamin D.
Yeah. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised. I think Washington has a similar issue. Except for people
Yeah.
like they're nice to your face, but they're not very helpful versus I think I saw a post somewhere where like the difference between the Northwest and the Northeast. Northeast is like people are fucking grumpy, but they're helpful. They'll help you
Yeah.
begrudgingly. They'll fuck, I'll help you. Where people in
Yeah.
Washington are like super nice and supportive, but then like to your face, but then they're either shitty behind your back or they're not actually helpful or capable of helping. And I'm just like, you fucking motherfuckers.
Oh, yeah, that sucks.
So
Oh, man. Someday. That's too
yeah.
funny.
I got one
Shit.
last question for you, and then I'm gonna stop bugging you, and I'll let you get on with your day and hang out with your family because I know it's getting late in the day over there for you guys. Um,
Appreciate
I
it.
saw one of your recent posts was you foraging. What are some of your favorite mushrooms or things to go foraging for in the woods?
Oof. Yeah, I love going morel hunting. Have you ever had
Oh,
morels?
nice. Yes, I love
Oh my
morels.
gosh, they're so good. Yeah, I love morel hunting. Yeah, chicken of the woods, hen of the woods, black trumpets. There's only like four mushrooms that I'll actually fuck with because
Sure,
I'm
that's
so
fair.
scared that I'm gonna. Yeah, like
You're gonna
I feel
poison
like that's one
yourself.
of those. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I feel like that's one of those things where you like have to absolutely know 100% like that you can identify it. So
Right. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. And which
yeah,
one is
those
this?
dude, they're so good.
These
That's
are
chicken of the
oysters?
woods, hen of the
Oh,
woods.
is it hen of the
That's
wood? Okay.
hen of the woods. Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
Have you
I don't
ever
think
had any of these?
I've never cooked with it. I've foraged and eaten morels, chanterelles, um, what else? Trying to think.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
oyster mushrooms.
Chanterelle mushrooms are so good too.
Yeah.
Chanterelles, yeah,
Oh, and
morel
lobster mushrooms.
mushrooms are my best, my favorite. They're the
Yeah.
best. Yeah,
Well, yeah, that's
they're super hard to find though.
the chanterelles.
Morels,
Oh, the morels. Yeah.
morel, yeah, morel mushrooms are really hard to find. They are around here, anyways. I feel like, yeah,
Yeah, from what I understand, they really like burned areas, like places that have caught fire. Um,
yep,
I had somebody who they had a friend or they would something about they would intentionally build fire like just in a fire pit, but they would
yeah,
like make sure to spread the ashes around. And there's something about nutrients that are in the ashes or something like that, or in the
to
burnt
help them
logs. You get
grow.
yeah, and they fucking love. And there's this like they
Yeah,
would just grow them around their fire pit. Um,
hell yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, what is it? Shaggy. We get shaggy manes around here too, which are also known
Yeah,
as I think ink cap. And I've actually like just like in our neighborhoods, like I can be driving through the neighborhood and I can see some. I'll pick them up.
hell yeah.
They're lobster mushrooms. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, there's a ton more. I've just learned about a new one called wine caps, or like new to me, wine caps. We have a ton of edible mushrooms. I don't explore too far outside of the ones I really know, because
Yeah,
some mushrooms have some lookalikes that are not safe to eat. Uh,
exactly. Yeah, that's how I am too. And then if I do find something, I'm like, hey, Dad, you want to try this first?
oh my god, you're doing the
I'm just kidding.
testing.
That's terrible. Yeah, exactly.
What other kind of
No.
what other, outside of like hunting and harvesting animals? What other kind of, and mushrooms? What else are you foraging in the woods when you're out in the woods?
Um, yeah, just mushrooms. I like foraging wild leeks.
Mm,
Yeah, honestly, my favorite thing to do, and I haven't had a chance to do in a long time because I got the little one now,
yeah.
and I don't want him getting all fucked up. But I love breaking into abandoned buildings. Like I love
Okay.
exploring. Like New
Yeah.
England's got so many like insane asylums and stuff around here. So
Sure.
I've been into probably like 25 of them, but
Holy shit. Yeah.
yeah, that's like my favorite thing to do
I
when I'm
watch.
not in the shop out
Yeah,
there.
I have pages that I follow that are like called like abandoned places and stuff like that, where people are doing that. They're going to
Yeah.
these abandoned places or old tunnels or subway stations and
Yep.
shit like that. And
Yeah.
or finding these like weird stairways under trees that go down to like some fucking bunker somewhere. It's like,
Yeah. You're
what
like,
the
what the
hell?
hell? Yep. Dude, that's
Yeah.
my favorite thing to do. I think I've posted like a lot of stuff on my Instagram too of like different places, but there's some cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, Connecticut has a lot of cool places. Mass has a lot of cool places. Yeah, I found some really cool asylums where like you could go downstairs into like the morgues, and they still have like the beds, the hospital beds
Oh,
and
crazy.
chairs, and
Oh,
yeah, it's
wow.
cool.
Here in
That's my
Olympia,
favorite.
there's a underground tunnel system that connects a lot of the downtown area that not a lot of people explore anymore, that I've been
That's
very,
wicked cool.
very interested in going down into and kinda just scoping it out. Like, I
Yeah.
don't like in Seattle. Seattle is actually built on older parts of Seattle, especially like the parts near the water. That
Hmm.
part of Seattle is built on top of the old city of Seattle. And so, there's like a whole other city underground, like, especially once you get
Yeah.
from the waterfront toward like up towards the hills a little bit, like it's
Hmm.
a lot of that's built on other like old structures. It's fucking crazy, built on pylons
Hell
and stuff
yeah.
like that. And that's,
That's so
I would love
cool.
to do like underground tours of some of that shit because it's just interesting to me. And
Love
there's so
that.
much history,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, that's what I like to do. I like to look up the place and see like the background and the history behind it, and then I love going in there and exploring and stuff. And there's some places like Justin and I went into one not too long ago, and I took some pictures of him, and you can see like something standing behind him. It was so creepy, and you can just feel like this like crazy energy in some of the places. But yeah, I
Sure.
love doing that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm big into
Mm.
like the ghost hunters and all of that
Urban
stuff.
exploring.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. I love
that's
it.
super interesting. Cool. All
Oh
right.
yeah.
Well, I appreciate you, and I appreciate
Me
you
too.
sharing your time and your story with us. It really means a lot. I've been very I I I've really enjoyed getting to know you better and some of your story and your history, and I know there's tons more there. We
Yeah.
got plenty more to talk about at another
Hell
time,
yeah.
but I just appreciate you doing the work that you're doing, and you sharing yourself with the world through the TV shows and through Instagram and all that, and showing that, you know, women are more than capable of making knives as well. I think I'm
Yeah.
actually still surprised that there aren't more women making knives, because they're playing women who use knives in all kinds of capacities, and they're
Yeah.
obviously very capable of doing the work. And so I just appreciate you also like kind of representing in that way, for other women
Thank
to be able
you.
to see that there's an option and an opportunity to do
Hell
that.
yeah.
Um,
Hell yeah.
yeah. So,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been a blast, and
well,
it's
yeah,
been great like talking to you. And yeah, hell yeah.
yeah, no,
I'm sure we'll catch up more.
yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that we were able to nail it down, because I know you got a lot going on with the family and whatnot. So
Hell yeah.
cool.
No, I
Uh,
appreciate it. I'm like
yeah,
always so bad with podcasts because I'll be like, yeah, I'll do it. And then I always end up like backing out because I'm like, I'm such a weirdo and I feel like I'm so bad when I do podcasts. But yeah,
no
so
worries.
thanks for
No. It was
You're
great.
getting
No,
me to do it.
I enjoyed it. Um,
Me too.
and yeah, so I'm gonna give a quick shout out again to our super sponsors from the Patreon. Again, if you want to join the Patreon, be part of these conversations, talk to top makers like Kaila and all the other people that we have talked to in the past or people that we have coming up. Go to the Patreon, sign up at the illuminated individual level or higher, and you can be part of these conversations like Mike Poor was today. So again, shout out to Gabe Fletcher, Anchorage Forge, Tony Sasma, TNT Forge, Josh Weston. He's on Instagram as at Josh Weston, as well as the at Dragon Forge EXP. We got Russell Tinsley of at Ouzel Finch Beers, at Can't Make Knives, and at Nost Brewing Project. And we have Dan Hubbs at 66 Mountain Knives on both Instagram and Facebook. That's the numbers 66. And finally, we have Lawrence Lake of Maritime Knife Supply on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Maritime Knife Supply. You can also go to his website, maritimenifesupply.com, for all your knife making needs. Thank you again, Kaila, and thank you for everybody who has been listening and supporting the Patreon and this podcast. Really appreciate you all. Hope you have a wonderful year. We will see you again next year. That's it. Bye for now.